night to July's virtual summit. We have got an unbelievable lineup for you guys tonight. We've got the one and only Brandon Dawson kicking off the night tonight. And then I've got a really special friend of mine, Dr. Mudgill from New York City, who is the top dermatologist and dermapathologist in New York. Man, I've been on this guy's podcast. He's been on mine. A phenomenal time. You guys are going to be ridiculously blessed by him tonight. Chef Serena Poon. Serena is a celebrity chef to the stars. She has her own Food Network channel show. Jared Mirsky, a good buddy of mine who runs, started and founded Wick and Mortar, who is the top graphic and marketing design company or design firm for the cannabis industry. Steve Trang. Steve will be on with us tonight. Justin Stewart, who is a home builder in Seattle, Washington. Justin does about $50 million a year in home building. And then the one and only David Meltzer is going to cap us off tonight. David, if you guys do not know, is a dear friend of the Grow Stack Drive family and community. And David was the character for the Jerry Maguire movie that Tom Cruise played. So as we get ready to kick off tonight, I would love to. I'd love to share a couple wins, guys, as we've got people that will be rolling in. I know it's early on the West Coast, 6:30, almost 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So, dude, I would love take about 2 or 3 minutes I know we've got a small handful of people in here right now. I'd love some wins. Solana, Whitehead, all the way from, I'm not sure if you're in Northern California, if you're in Vegas, not sure exactly where you're at, girl. Tell me where you're at and tell me about what Fluzzle Tube's going on right now, girl.
How's it going? We're actually in Lake Havasu City right now. We're in Arizona. So,
hey, share some wins with everybody. Talk about Fluzzle Tube and about how you guys are just exploding on the market right now.
Yeah, Fluzzle Tube's going great. This is our second year out, and we've got some great contracts with Camping World and 2 other fairly big retailers. And so they've all we just checked in with them last week. They all re-upped their orders with us. Which is great, all things considered, with COVIDs and store closures and everything. So our direct-to-consumer market has really gone up as well, and we're sold out of many of our products. We're waiting for a reorder of our own to arrive in the middle of next month. So it's just been an explosive summer. It's been great.
Hey, talk real quick, Solana. What's the growth been year over year for you guys? And I know all through COVID, you guys not only sustained, but your business actually thrived and grew. Just give us a percentage or some numbers real quick.
Yeah. So that's one of the challenges that I'm really trying to get my head wrapped around is my data points. I think that's a thing that of growth where I need to really have been so much in the business instead of on top of the business. But thanks to Cardone Ventures team and a lot of the courses I'm taking with them, I'm learning a lot more about that. So, I mean, I know we're in the 100% range compared to last year because we were just literally coming out. That was our very first startup year. So I don't know. It's so much so that we are selling out of inventory. So I hope to have better numbers for you in the future, but it's been a great.
I love it. Yeah. That data point sounds like you've been working with Brandon Dawson and Cardone Ventures over there is what it sounds like.
Yes, I'm learning a lot. Still, always I'm a serial learner. I have a lot to learn, but
Come on,
really good stuff.
Come on. Hey, I want to introduce you guys to Nate May. Nate is our business development guy here for the Ken Joslin Group, for Ken Joslin team on my real estate side for Joslin Coaching and for the Grow Stack Drive brand. Nate, intro yourself real quick. Tell everybody a little about who you are and what's going on, man.
Hey guys, excited to be here with you. Thanks so much, Ken, for the quick intro there. Solana, number one, thank you. I got your Fluzzle Tubes. My kids love them. They're a hit at our pool. I even got the cooler for my adult beverages. So when I sit on them, we're good to go. So I've covered the gambit. We've took them down the river and the pool. They're amazing. So awesome work, by the way. Awesome work. No, my background is I've known Ken for 19 years, met him at a John Maxwell conference. I worked for John Maxwell for years. I had a chance to help him grow and sell his first company. Went on from there to rep other speakers, authors like New York Times bestseller Jordan Rubin, all the way down to doing events called the Executive Learning Network with Jack Welch, the late Stephen Covey, Kim Blanchard. So my backdrop is in intellectual property and helping people build thought leaders' businesses. So that's my quick background. I've enjoyed working with Ken. I appreciate him more than just a thought leader. He's been a friend of mine through good, the bad, and the ugly. So it will tell you a lot that I've been doing life with Ken for close to 19 years. So that tells you what I think about him. So I'm just excited to be here and serve part of Ken's team and be able to help you guys achieve your full potential personally, financially, and professionally. So thanks again, Ken. We're excited to have you all here, by the way.
Hey, dude, excited. Hey, real quick, guys, before we get started, I'm going to turn it over to my friend Brandon Dawson real quick. If you would, I put a link on there for our YouTube channel. Everything we're streaming tonight live on YouTube, on Facebook, on 2 different channels. If you would, take just a second tonight. Click on that YouTube channel, go on and subscribe. We literally transitioned from Instagram Live to Facebook and YouTube Live every day. Had a phenomenal interview today with the one and only Josh York from Gym Guys, the fastest growing personal fitness brand and franchisee in the world. Tomorrow, this week, we've got Brad Lee, we've got Garen Jones, we've got Anthony Trucks. Tonight, guys, we've got some really, really special guests. And I really, to be honest with you, could think of no other person that I would want to kick off tonight. I have been in the 10X community since October. I've seen my business grow about 819%. We started 3 brand new companies, scaled our real estate team now where I've got a team in Birmingham. I've got a team in Atlanta, Georgia. We took that from last year from doing 8 million, projected to about 16 million in business this year. Started Jocelyn Coaching, where we coach business owners around the country, as well as the Grow Stack Drive brand, which is what we're doing now with our weekday lives, our podcast, and those things. And there have been a couple of people that have been super influential in my life. You guys know I'm a Grant Cardone licensee. And I hold, there are a few people that I hold in high esteem in my life. As Nate mentioned, I was fortunate enough to be around Dr. Maxwell and some great thought leaders and some people who really added value at a deep and intimate level to leaders. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. The first or second time I got around Brandon Dawson, who's our first communicator tonight, not only did I see a man who successfully built a company and sold it for around $150 million, but what I saw and what I heard was a man who had a passion and desires to help leaders just like yourself, just like myself, learn and grow to be able to scale our business at such a level. Brandon's done some phenomenal things. As I mentioned, sold a company for over $150 million. He does not have to do what he does. And I think it speaks to the character and the integrity that this man operates in. So tonight, guys, our format is each communicator is going to have 10 minutes to talk about the topic. Tonight's topic is what's the one principle that has made the biggest difference in your business and in your life. And then we're going to take about 5 minutes to do some Q&A at the end of each speaker. So if you would tonight, if you've got questions for Brandon or Steve Trang or Dr. Mudgill and all of our speakers tonight, we'd love for you in the chat section. We'd love for you to do 2 things. We'd love for you to put in there, hey, who are you? What's your Instagram link? And if you've got questions tonight, we'd love for you to do that as well. Brandon, dude, super honored that you're with us tonight. And dude, the floor is yours, my friend.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm in Cabo San Lucas, where I brought my daughter, my 14-year-old, for her summer vacation. And we were supposed to be in Miami, but they canceled boot camp. So I decided to reroute and come down here. And it's just such a pleasure because I played golf yesterday with my number one mentor who changed my life back in 2000. His name's Hector Lamarck. And he has about a third of the distribution at Primerica Financial Services. And when I met Hector, I came off of being a traditional CEO of a public company. And I really knew I needed to learn the fundamentals of sitting one-on-one with people and kind of humbling myself. I was doing a lot of big transactions, going public, doing these amazing things, but it didn't all work out for me. And I needed to go back and reset and understand why. And I learned that I didn't have the mechanics of how to grow and scale a business in a replicable, duplicable fashion. And I didn't lead people to be aligned with the opportunity. I was so fixated on what I wanted to do. And I set all this up because Hector is the person in 2000 that introduced me to Robert Anthony, Dr. Robert Anthony, and Beyond Positive Thinking. Hector is the person that told me to read 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. Hector's the one that told me to read Napoleon Hill, and Hector's the one, and he said, what you think about is what you talk about. What you talk about is what you do, and what you do is your legacy. And all you keep talking about, Brandon, is what's wrong, what's broken, how people screwed you over. And you're my best friend, and I want to see you succeed. But if you can't get unstuck, I already have visibility into the future. I can see where you're headed. And since you're only talking about how you got screwed over and what these people did to you, and you're not talking about what you learned from the situation and how you'd improve it given the opportunity to do it bigger, better, different, and what you're not talking about is what you want to build, I already know you're not going to have the success you're capable of having, and it just breaks my heart. And so I'm just letting you know, I refuse to be around drainers, people who opt not to take control of their life. And if you don't make a decision by the time we get off this golf course, I won't ever play golf with you again. And like, this is 3 years into, both of us were 5 handicaps. We did everything together. Well, he changed my life, right? And so what's really cool is he visited me a few years ago when they opened Chileno Bay. It's just a remarkable private club that I'm an original investor in from 2003, and it finally opened, and Discovery has it, and it's just remarkable. Well, Hector came and had lunch with me, and he's like, dude, this is like the most remarkable place I've ever been to. So they joined. And so here I happened to reroute. He happened to be here. I texted him, and he and I went out and played golf, and it was just like nothing ever changes. So what we were talking about is the secrets to his success and my success. And I thought I'd share those things with you guys because it really is this easy. And this is what everybody gets confused because their ego or their personal need to be a bigger deal or something. I don't know what it is, but there's three things you have to do. The 3 M's: model, mimic, and master. If you do those 3 things and you teach people to do those 3 things, you'll crush whatever it is you're doing. Model, mimic, master. Don't change it until you master it. And if you just teach people to do that with whatever you're doing, as long as you're finding success and you make it a priority to teach that to as many people as you can to get to the same level of success you've had, you're own any area, any aspect of your life. And it's just such a great refresher with everything going on to have him remind me of that. But that's what he told me in 2000, and it's never changed.
That's phenomenal. So tell me real quick, Brandon, the one thing that I think what causes me and other people to hold you in high regard is there's a couple stories that you talked about. One was when you sold your company. I remember you saying literally for 6 months, you were devastated. You built this dream. And the next thing you know, you sell a company for 150 million. You in turn, gifted and gave some of that money back into the team that helped you build, which I think speaks to the level of character that you have. But talk to me about that moment when you sold that company and what that journey was like when your baby's gone and you're kind of wondering what's next and you're trying to figure out the model and the mimic and the mastering. Like, how did you go through that process and figure out what was next in life for you?
Well, I knew what was next. I had hired research firms since 2010, refreshed every 2 years. I had picked hundreds of industries I wanted to go do the same thing in. And I was so ready for that. And some of my mentors told me, don't do it at the same time that you're maturing Audigy. So, because I was just going to have Audigy be one of the 10 or 20 companies. And they're like, don't do that because it's the golden goose and you've executed so flawlessly, and don't go out and stumble around. And I didn't really heed that advice. And so I had launched a couple other companies and they weren't working as well because I couldn't put my attention to them. And so I reset. I made some hard decisions. I shut a business down I had invested $8 million into because I realized I needed to focus and sell Audigy and not end up creating a whole bunch of mediocrity around me. And so, there was about an 18-month of selling Audigy, and, selling something for a lot of money is in itself a lot of pressure because you got to go through the quality of earnings audits. You've got multiple buyers. You're not focused on the business. You're trying to present it and get deals done. And so I was, my big goal was to be worth $100 million. And all of a sudden, I'm the kind of guy that I don't celebrate my deals because I know they can fall apart in the last hour. And then people are crushed. I watched them lose all their momentum and mojo. Mm-hmm. So I don't get excited about deals. And then when they close, it's a frustrating thing to the people I'm around because they're like, dude, we got to celebrate. And I'm like, yeah, but we knew it was going to happen. What's next? The problem was what I wasn't prepared for is all of a sudden it sells. I'm really hyper-focused on integrating it on a global basis. So I was staying really super busy for about 5 or 6 months. And then it integrated. And then all of a sudden I woke up one day and I realized nobody actually needs me. And I think that was a weird feeling. My phone wasn't blowing up. My emails weren't coming in. People weren't calling me constantly saying, we got to fire, we need your expertise. Everything was working. And all of a sudden I was like, I sold my baby. It's now somebody else's. I've integrated it. We've done that so well. I'm not really needed anymore. And so then I went through this, well, I guess for the first time in my life, I'll take some time off. Like I've never done that. And I started buying shit, like a house down here in Cabo and spending time down here. And then I remember Natalie and I came down here for 2 weeks. And the first week we were like, man, this is the life. This is amazing. We don't have anybody we're talking to. We don't have to do anything. And then we both kind of got sick from something we ate. And then we were like miserable for the second week. And we were like, we got to get the hell out of here. And we went home and we made the decision on the way home that we're just so much better than that kind of life. And that's not what we enjoy anyway. We enjoy the grind. She's up and coming in her career, and she was in the battle for 2 or 3 years with me. So all of a sudden for her, so early into her career, making so many strides, to all of a sudden have nothing, like me saying, I don't know that I want to do anything else for a while, was disruptive to her career. And so we had created our own strife and resistance, and it wasn't making us happy. So I think it was really kind of, I felt like, okay, I lost what I needed to do, and now I need to reset and start over. And I wasn't going back to the basics, and I was disrupting myself, and I was feeling emotionally out of alignment. And so I just really needed to find a way to reset, refocus, retarget, and I needed to find some new mentors, because I had done the things, my mentors, the guys that I love so much. In fact, many of them will say today, I've moved from the student to now I'm the coach, because a lot of them are coming to me because in the last 10 years, I'm now worth 100 million and they're still worth 50, 60, 70, 80 million because they haven't decided to go back to work. And now they've gone from 50 to 80. And, and I see that, and I've seen that transition. And I just realized that I want to die going full tilt. I can go any minute and I'm going to be satisfied. My kids know I love them. My grandkids know I love them. Everyone in my life that I love is taken care of. So what's next? And to me, it's like for the first time in my life, I have absolutely nothing stopping me from achieving every single thing I want to achieve. And if I'm not pursuing that, then I'm not happy. And I have a great lady around me who feels the same way. And so now we love every moment of everything we're doing.
I love it. Steve Trang put in their classic Bill Belichick behavior. And I know you probably watched the Last Dance about Jordan and about how it was always what's next. And I don't know if that's what attracted you to work with Grant, because Grant has that same mentality. It's like what's next. And so now you're not only operating in what's next for you and you're, I say this all the time. You heard Nate say it just a minute ago, personal, professional, and financially. I mean, I got that from you back in December.
Yeah. And you know what? You know what I love about this? I got it from Hector in 2000.
Yeah. And so here it is. It's passed down all my one-on-one coaching groups, all my online coaching groups, everybody. I talk about personal, professional, and financial goals because it's something I learned from
Maxwell,
you. And
I worked with Maxwell's team in 2013. They talk about it because I brought it in when I helped them with their strategy and in growing the Maxwell companies. And that's where I became really close to John and Mark. But, they talk about that. I mean, and it all came from my mentor, Hector. And I've been able to take what he taught me and amplify and multiply it across the spectrum of tens of thousands of people, and soon to be hundreds of thousands and then millions. And I joined Grant because I'm a traditional business guy, and I was looking at Tony and I was looking at all these personalities out there, and I just couldn't align with the fundamental business aspects. And then Natalie made me read 10X Rule. We listened to it. I would refuse, after watching one Instagram post to Grant, I refused to do anything with Grant. And so she's like, you got to read his book. You got to listen to it. And I was like, I'm not having anything to do with that guy. He's crazy. And then as I read the book and then started reading his work, I realized he's crazy like a fox. What Grant has done is bridged obscurity. There's a lot of really wealthy people. None of us know them. And they, no matter how much money they want to throw at being known, the world just doesn't care because they're not loud enough. They're not aggressive enough. They're not creative enough. And where Grant says, attention, a commitment, attention follows commitment. and people think they can buy their way to getting attention, and you can't. You have to put yourself out there. And so when I realized the mastery of that, and then said, okay, I'm gonna do, if you look at my Instagram from the day I became Grant's partner to what it was before, I didn't even have a Facebook account. I never logged on Instagram. I had 132 followers. I never posted anything. Everything was internal. Everything was on my internal systems, thousands of videos, coaching and teaching entrepreneurs, but nothing in the public. I just grew up thinking that was what professional business people, traditional business people do. And when I made the pivot, it was such a huge move to get into Grant's Jetstream. And I'm trying to learn from him every single day. And he's such a great mastery teacher and coach. And the more you put energy into mastering what he's trying to teach, the more he's excited to teach. That's what people don't realize with mentors is the more you mimic them, the more you replicate them, the more you show them that you're learning, the more excited they get, because they need that too. They need to see people doing that.
Hey, talk to me, Brandon, about how talk to me about how fulfilling it's been for you to start Cardone Ventures and take businesses and business owners from where they were 6 months ago, 8 months ago to where they are now. Talk to me about the fulfillment you and Natalie get out of that.
Oh, it's so rewarding. I mean, these people aren't clients, they're family. And that's what I really loved about the 10X brand. And when I went to GrowthCon in Miami, 35,000 people there, it was a family, man. And I felt it. And I was like, this feels amazing. So to be able to impact lives and to be able to put people into the fast track lane where they can really exploit their talents and their unique abilities, and break through false and limited beliefs and overcome challenges and obstacles and literally not make the stupid mistakes I made with family and with money and with relationships, all in pursuit of success. And to see people be able to just accelerate their life personally, professionally, and financially. It's a bond. It creates, you know what it is? It's not even about money. It creates like this bond with that person. And I think that's what the gift of life really is. It's about how many people you can impact, how many people impact you, and how close you are to people. And I think when you can forge deep-rooted relationships with people that are really super meaningful, that go beyond just a client relationship, but almost like extended family, that to me is that's when I know I'm creating impact, not only for me, but for them and them for me. And that's what I love. And I'm not an overly touchy-feely guy, but I can tell at a vibrational, I try to hone in my vibrational energy to be in sync with people that I'm working with so that we can all harmony at the highest level of impact. And you can feel that with people. You don't have to ask. You can see it. You can feel it. You can hear it. You can taste it. And for me, it's just very gratifying to know that I've got family all over the world that love me and care about me and are inspired by me, and equally me with them. And I think that's what wealth is. I don't think wealth is defined by actual money. I think it's defined by your ability to be free and love and care about who you want to love and care about. And I have people asking me, I try to stay out of all the political bullshit, and I try to stay out of, all these movements that are going on, because I have one simple answer, which is, I don't care what color you are. I don't care what language you speak. I don't care what country you come from. I don't care what religion you come from. Here's what I care about. If you want to rely and trust me, and I can rely and trust you, we're gonna hit it out of the park, and that's all I care about. The rest of the stuff is other people's noise, and it's their things that they're dealing with. And as long as I can care and take care of you, and you can care and take care of me, and we want the absolute best for each other, and we're gonna strive for that, I'm all in, man. And I don't care about anything else. And so I just keep my blinders on to all the other noise.
I love it, dude. That's one of the things I remember coming down to Grant's, getting invited to come to the roundtable in December. And I had sent you a DM and said, hey, if you and Natalie are free for dinner, I'd love to take you guys to dinner. And I remember we did the session and I asked a Q&A and you stopped and you said, Ken, it's the first time I met you. You said, Ken, were you the one that sent me the DM about dinner? I said, yes, sir. And you were so genuine in your response to me that I was like, it blew me away. I remember we went to dinner with a bunch of the mentees that were there that night. And that was the topic of conversation for several minutes was, just the genuineness and the authenticity for you and Natalie to be able to do what you do at the level you do it with the heart you would do it with. And man, I just want to say thank you. You have made an unbelievable difference in my life, in all of our businesses, in the hundreds and thousands of people in the 10X community, through Cardone Ventures, everything you do, dude. I love your passion. You literally do not have to do what you do, and yet you continue to. And I see the countenance. I see the fulfillment. I literally see an individual, and you and Natalie, a couple that I admire as much or more than anybody that I get to be around. So, man, I want to say thank you.
I appreciate that. And thank you, Ken, for having me on your show. Natalie obviously says hello, and we just appreciate the community, the 10X community, and really blessed to be part of it. Tonight, I have my 10X Owners Live. We're going to be talking about crushing COVID. I've got 9 elements I've identified in the businesses that are succeeding and doing really well, and I'm going to break those down in a webinar this Saturday. I would highly recommend for you guys to participate in it's a free webinar.
Can you drop that in the chat, Brandon? Do you know the link? Can you drop that in the chat right there?
Question. Let's see here. I think if you just, let me.
If you can't, I'll get Stacy to find it and put it on there.
I'll text it to you or something.
That'll be perfect. Do that.
/ oh God, I can't remember. I'm not like Grant. This is, I got to learn, right? I got to learn.
No, Grant rips those off that quick.
Right off the top of his head.
Did he really say he had a 5 handicap? That's what I heard.
Yeah. I've been as low as 2.8.
Oh, we've got a C-Rock and Brandon Dawson challenge is what it sounds like we've got going on right here tonight, y'all.
I'm open. Grant challenged me once too.
Yeah, that probably didn't work out too well for him, did it?
Not in pool or golf.
Hey, Brandon, thank you a ton, my friend. Tell Natalie we said hello and we send our love, man. Thank you so much for being on with us tonight.
Great show. See ya. Bye.
Thanks, man. Hey, guys, listen, again, my name is Ken. Honored that you're here with us tonight for the Growth Stack Drive Virtual Summit. We're talking tonight about the number one principle or business principle that causes our business to grow. And tonight, what I wanted to talk about is I kind of thought through, like, what is that number one thing? What is, for me, like, what is something that I can talk about? What is something that we can spend time on tonight? And for me, guys, it always streams back to passion. It always streams back to like I ask this question all the time. When I walk into a room, do people gravitate towards me or do they gravitate away from me? And guys, listen, passionate leaders, the world is absolutely starving right now for passionate leaders in a way that I believe they never have before. Brandon mentioned just a minute ago about some of his mentors and literally about how the world is going right now and what's going on in the world right now. I want to take just a minute and talk about passionate leaders. I want to talk about being intentionally passionate. I've got 5 core values that I live by, 5 filters. And those core values are passion, focus, intentionality, teachability, and flexibility. And if you'll notice, the very first one of those is passion. The very first one of those is passion. And people ask me all the time, Ken, how have you seen your business grow the way that your business has grown? How have you seen your company? How have you seen your real estate company, your coaching business? How have you seen your Growth Stack Drive brand? How are you getting in front of? I spent the weekend with Coach Michael Burt this weekend. Last month, I was at Greg Reed, who wrote the book 3 Feet from Gold. I was at Greg's house for a couple hours. I drive back up to Nashville in a couple weeks to spend some time with Coach Michael Burt again and to spend the day shadow him and then have dinner with him. How do you get around some of the people that you get around? How do you get Brad Lee to come on your podcast? How do you interview guys like Anthony Trucks and Carlos Reyes and Steve Trang? How do you get some of these guys? And guys, listen, number one, I sent the invite. Number 2, I let my passion speak for itself. So here's the question I want you to ask yourself again. And some of you may have heard this before, and that's this. Am I passionate? Because here's what passion does. Passion does a few things. Number 1, passionate leaders take risks. And I want you to look throughout your life right now and ask yourself this question. Do I take risks? Like, what are some of the risks? And I'm looking at Solana on here tonight and her business on the Fluzzle Tube. I'm looking at her, and I've watched her and her husband Dale over the past 6 to 8 months continually take risks. I've watched them continually take chances, continually take opportunity after opportunity for them to be able to take risks. I've watched them take risks. I watched this as Solana and them for the what was the thing? What did they call it, Solana? You went before Brandon. What do they call that thing where you got to pitch? Unmute yourself real quick. Can you unmute yourself? I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that and about that passion you guys have for what you're doing.
That was the 10X pitch in Vegas. Yes.
Yeah, and talk to me about how risky it was to pitch your business in front of a panel of guys, and one being Brandon, who sold his business for $150 million. And not only that, but you're competing against other business owners. Talk to me about that passion. Talk to me about that. What was that like, getting outside your comfort zone and taking a risk as a leader?
Yeah, so I was just coming off of the very first mentorship with Grant, so definitely had learned quite a bit, but that was a huge intimidating step to take, because as you said, there were a lot of very established companies that were well seasoned in pitching and talking in front of millionaire groups and things like that, and we didn't have any of that. So you just connect with the why. Like, why are you there? And what, the vision, the dream of where we wanted to be. And we knew that these were experienced professionals that could have, give us insight. It's about being in rooms with people that think bigger than you, all of that, so just taking that risk to get out there and share our story and share our vision and, see what it was just, you just jump. It's the best way I can describe it. And if it doesn't work out, then you learn something from it and you try again. And so we've been doing that over and over again, and it gets easier. It's like working any other muscle, and you're less intimidated the more you do it.
What's the biggest risk you've had to take over the last 6 to 8 months, Lana?
Well, right before the 10X pitch, we did the Camping World pitch. And that was another big one. We flew all the way across into Minnesota, where it was freezing snow, and we're showing a summer product for floating and all of that. So that, that was a big risk for us too, because it was a huge company, and we weren't sure what they would think of a little small, solopreneur type business starting up. So I think it's just, when we're with more experienced people that are around us, you feel small, and just pushing through that and, staying closely connected to your vision and your goal of being larger and bigger, it's the closer you get. Just keep going after it and don't give up, even with the no's, even with the discouragements. Yeah,
I love it. It's been an honor and a pleasure to watch you and Dale build that business and grow, and signing on with Walmart and Camping World and all these big box stores. And literally from 8 months ago, the first time I met you at boot camp at 10X headquarters back in October, to watch you guys take that dream. And it really was 8 months ago, it wasn't only a dream. And now you're going from bigger warehouse to bigger warehouse to more staff to more, all of those things.
Yeah. Same to you, Ken, because meeting you at boot camp also, and watching you grow, and looking at your Zoom here with everybody that you have on, and just watching your YouTube channels and on Facebook Lives and all of your groups too. It's been an honor to watch you as well. You've definitely grown and expanded too. So
I appreciate that, girl. So passionate leaders, guys, number one, they take risks. So I don't know what kind of risk you need to take tonight, but here's what I'd love for you to do. If you've got a risk you need to take, number one, I'd love for you to write this down tonight. What risk do I need to take tomorrow? Literally, I want you to write it down right now. What's the number one risk? And I'll tell you what happened. About 3 weeks ago, I was down at 10X headquarters with Uncle G for his mastermind. We're sitting in this room. Is a $10,000 event, 2 days. There's about 25 or 30 of us there. And I'm listening to Grant talk about, and I've been fortunate to see my business grow 819% over the last 8 months since I got connected with Grant, became a Cardone licensee, from the real estate side to our coaching business to the Grow Stack Drive brand. I've just watched those things just really soar and take off. And for me, the notoriety that Uncle G has given me, the opportunities he gives me to speak down at 10X headquarters to the team and to the all of the Cardone licensees, the opportunity he gives me to speak on his Instagram lives, the platform he gives me in our mentorship community to be able to share from time to time, has been a phenomenal an honor. But when I went down there a few weeks ago and we went through the room, and we got to the end of the room and he asked me, he goes, okay, Ken, what do you got? What's your number one takeaway from the last 2 days with me? And Brandon was there as well. And I literally flipped over my 10X planner and in big capital letters, I had speed. And I told him, I said, Uncle G, I said, I've done and seen some phenomenal things in the last 8 months, but I'm not risking enough. I'm not moving fast enough. And I said, speed. And I wrote it down. I said, speed is my number one thing. And it was so funny because Grant sit there in his little laugh and just laughed because there were several people in the room that I knew from the mentorship group and from, just the different times I've been down to 10X headquarters. And a lot of the people looked at me like, speed? Like, what do you mean speed? And this is why I say passionate leaders take risks. And it's almost like what Brandon talked about earlier. It's like, what's next? Like, okay, we've seen this growth. This thing's taken off. We're getting connected with some super influential people. We're able to add value. We're able to help people win, find and discover their purpose and win at levels they've never won at before. But now I've got to move faster. And I walked up, everybody was donating a $100 bill to Grant's Children's Foundation while we were there. And I walked up to put my $100 bill. There was a stack of hundies on the table for Judge Cardone, as I called him, for Judge Cardone's Children's Foundation. As I walked up to put the $100 bill down on the table, he jumped up out of his seat. C-Rock was sitting next to me. Uncle G jumps out of his seat and gives me a big old bear hug. I go back to my seat. I literally got on my phone. There was a girl. I was hesitating on pulling the trigger to start my own our own online courses for Grow Stack Drive. I pulled the trigger and I hired a girl from LA. I flew her out the very next week. So her, Nate May, who's on the call tonight, who worked for John Maxwell, Ken Blanchard, Marcus Buckingham, Jordan Rubin. He's worked for all of these unbelievable intellectual property authors and people that are just New York Times bestsellers. I brought Nate, I brought her into a room for a week. We spent creating 3 brand new online courses for Grow Stack Drive. Grow is about mindset. We created an 8-week course where we're going to go after 6 limiting belief systems like scarcity, like fear, like lack, and even success. As we're going to talk about removing and replacing. We're on the stack side, we're going to talk about strategy, how to develop a personal and professional strategy using the 5 filters of passion, focus, intentionality, teachability, and flexibility. And then on the grow side, we're going to talk about multiplication, growing through massive action, through multiplication, through significance. And here's the difference. If you start out to be significant, you will always be successful. But if you start out to be successful, you may or may not find significance. I pulled the trigger and invested about $75,000 to be able to pull off. We're shooting in a studio in Atlanta, and I'm going to share a little bit about that here shortly. We're shooting in one of 4 studios in America that is a 4K real-time studio. It's the exact same studio that Pixar uses to shoot their shows and to shoot their cartoons and all their special effects. Same studio that Housewives of Atlanta uses, same studio that Chick-fil-A uses. We start filming next week. We will have, based on Kajabi, our own version of Cardone U for Grow Stack Drive. And that whole $70,000 investment that I made came out of 2 days with Grant and me taking a risk passionate leaders take risks. Taking a risk at a level that I had been debating on for about 6 weeks. Do I pull the trigger? Do I not pull the trigger? But being around Grant that day, and I knew, I said, I've got to pull the trigger. Walked down, dropped my $100 bill down. Grant gave me a hug. I went and sat down and immediately text. I started shooting out text. And Saturday morning, I had a group Zoom meeting with my ClickFunnels guy, with my high ticket sales team, with my content course creator, with Nate, with Zach, who does my graphic design. had a meeting with all of those guys, and we literally pulled the trigger, and we're due to release this in about 2.5 to 3 weeks. And it's going to be a game changer for what we're about to put out. And it happened because passionate leaders take risks. Guys, listen, I want to thank you guys for my time tonight. I've got a good friend of mine who's coming on next. His name is Dr. Mudgill. He is one of the few dermatologists to be board certified in dermatology and dermapathology. I had Dr. Mudgill on my podcast about a month and a half ago. We had if you haven't seen it, you can go to the YouTube channel. We've got the link up tonight. You can go and subscribe. We had one of the most phenomenal conversations. I love this guy's heart. I love what this guy is doing, not just on the medical side, but I love his story. And he's here tonight to talk about that one principle that's made him successful in business and both in his personal life. Dr. Mudgill, the floor is yours, my friend.
Hey, Ken, thanks so much for having me, man. I've been loving all this conversation, man. This stuff's right up my alley. And I love all the passion that all you guys are talking about. Really, it's great to see a group of folks that are so aligned and, trying to achieve the greatness within each of us. And, it's really resonating through all these conversations. So thank you again for having me. It's hard to identify one specific thing, one specific core value that really underlies someone's success, or what motivates them and what really enables them to achieve their potentials. And I'll tell you, for me, I think this is just backtracking a little bit. Actually, doing the exercise of sitting down and defining what defines you, what your core values are, the 3 or 4 things that define you, is really where it all begins. And to be perfectly honest, it's not something I even thought about. And I'm 40. I just turned 45. It's not something I even thought about until a couple of years ago. It's probably in 2018 I defined my core values, and it was after reading a book. It's called Traction by Gino Wickman, and he basically talks about how important it is to define core values. And I never really thought about it because, of course, all of these things were sort of living in my world, like things that were important to me, like kindness and professionalism and passion, like you mentioned. And these are things that I always talked about. But I never actually sat down and defined what my core values are. And the reason why I think it's so important now on the other end of that, having defined my core values, one is it kind of captures what I'm all about. And so I think it's also important that your core values professionally and personally are the exact same thing, because it really enables you to troubleshoot issues, right? It just is who you are. So for me, I sat down, and I was in Miami actually with my family, and I finished reading that book, and I was on the plane ride home, and I wanted to send an email to my staff. The new year, I think 2019 was starting, and or maybe it was 2018. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was 2019, and I wanted to send an email to my staff, to kind of set the tone right for the year. So on the plane ride home, I had a piece of paper, and I was just writing down what are my 4. I wanted to distill it down to 4 things. What are the 4 things that define what Mudgill Dermatology is all about, and what are the 4 things that define what Dr. Mudgill is all about? And again, they're one and the same. So, after really kind of figuring out these 4 things: care and compassion, integrity, accountability, and attention to detail. Those are the 4 things that define me as an individual. And it really took a lot of retrospective analysis and, trying to figure out how I got through various hurdles and stuff in my life, and what 4 things really resonated the most for me as a human. And of course, my business is a microcosm of who I am as a human. I don't have any partners. It's just me. And, really my message is the message of my business. And it's the message that I want to translate to my staff, to my other doctors that work for me, my assistants, my front desk staff, because it's a piece of me. It's one arm of what I do. Right. So obviously, these are all very easy to define. Care and compassion obviously is, treating everyone you meet. And I don't care who it is. It's the FedEx guy. It's the UPS guy. It's the person who's cleaning my office right now. I just got finished seeing patients. Everyone gets treated with the respect, care, and kindness that you would treat a loved one, a friend, just someone who is an important part of your life. That's just so important. So every patient that sees me, it's something I'm accessible to my patients. They can email me. They can text me. It's just, that's part of being a caring and compassionate doctor. To me, everyone has their own definition of it, but for me, that's important. Integrity obviously speaks for itself, being honest in your interactions, but also having integrity amongst the other folks that you work with, right? Because I see it a lot with some of my other staff through the years, having a business in New York City, having employed like gajillion people, it's almost like a turnstile at times, but kind of seeing how someone, knowing that there's another person who's more responsible and kind of like a safety net, will let some of their responsibilities slide, knowing that someone else is going to pick up the slack, right? So that's not operating with integrity. And that just engenders a bad environment. It just engenders animosity and resentment. And so, integrity is always, again, very much aligned with care and compassion, treating folks with respect and being honest in everything that you do, in your actions and what you say, being true to your word, all that sort of stuff. Now, accountability I actually got from Grant's book. So one of the 5 books I read when I sort of started this new phase of my life a few years ago was the TEDx Rule. And, there's one part of that book where he's talking about the power went out. I don't know where he was living. I think it was LA or something like that. And of course, everyone's like first reaction when something like that happens is like, oh, you know what? F the power company, really assigning the blame to all of the outside circumstances. Like this town sucks, the power company sucks. But he's like, no. He's like, the fault really lies with me. Why didn't I install a generator in my home so my family didn't have to suffer without power? And for some reason, that was just, in fact, that little segment of the book I put in the email that I sent to my staff because I thought it was so powerful. It really, all accountability starts here. So if something goes wrong in my office, even if it's someone in my staff that screwed up, that falls on me. Maybe I wasn't clear enough in the message or how things are supposed to be done. Really, if you shoulder the burden of all of those things, then it allows you to lead a lot better because, again, the buck stops with me, so I'm responsible for everything that happens in my office. I'm responsible for everything that happens, with my family. And this is something that's hard to do, It's really hard to let your ego, put your ego aside and, really kind of say, hey, okay, how did I F up in this situation and how could I have made things turn out better? And I think that was such a valuable lesson. That was actually, from Grant's book. And then the last thing, which I think is the X factor. So if we're going to distill it down to the single most important thing that differentiates great from good, it's attention to detail. And I'll give you a few examples. I mean, look at the folks that are the greatest at what they do. So, you talked about The Last Dance. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, Bruno Mars, John Mayer. All of these folks have exceptional talent, right? So if they did nothing, if they, just kind of coasted on their natural talent, all of the athletes I mentioned would have been professional athletes. All of the musicians I mentioned surely would have been professional musicians. But the reason why they're who they are, why they're elite amongst a sea of elite people, like, they're the 0.01%, is because of the attention to detail. Like, you hear these stories about Kobe Bryant and the way he practiced. I forget the exact number, but I think he had to sink 300 baskets or 400 baskets every time he practiced. He had a horrible game and he missed a bunch of 3-pointers. They would land in the next city at 1 o'clock in the morning and he'd say, hey, get me a gym. And then he'd go straight to the gym and practice till 7 in the morning. It's that level of attention to detail that makes someone great. That's the 10,000 hours that everyone talks about. And it's not like 10,000 hours like, hey, and I'll give you a story from my own personal life, which is actually in my book, which I just finished. When I first started playing golf, I loved the golf talk earlier because I'm obsessed with the game. I was literally going to the range and banging at balls and literally the first guy there, the last guy to leave, hitting I'm not kidding, probably thousands of balls every time I went there. But you know what? The problem was I still sucked every season. I wasn't getting any better, although I was putting in the 10,000 hours, right? But the difference between 10,000 hours, it's not 10,000 hours. It's 10,000 hours of purposeful practice, something purposeful where you're actually improving. So I was like, you know what? I still suck. I'm not getting any better. I hired a golf professional to help me with my swing. I was hitting a lot less balls, but I was getting a lot better because I started putting in purposeful practice, attention to detail. I was being attentive to the faults in my swing, the coming over the top and not coming from inside, all the things is sort of classic golf things. But it's, once I started paying attention to the details and breaking down the fundamentals of my swing, that's when I started improving. Like, that's like a trivial example. I'll give you another example. Like, I have 3 kids, and, which I was always like a skinny fat guy my entire life, so I was like a 160 pound skinny flabby guy, and through the decade of my 30s, with each kid, my wife just somehow bounced back and looked tremendous after each child, but I somehow gained 10 pounds with every kid. And all of a sudden I was like it was Thanksgiving of 2012, and I'm sitting on the couch, my brother-in-law sitting on his couch with his belly. I got a scotch on my belly. He has a beer in his belly. He looked over to me. He's like, dude, what happened to us? Now, during that entire decade, I was working out. I even had a trainer. I was going to the gym. I was going to the Equinox gym in New York City where I lived. I was working out with a trainer, but I wasn't really watching what I was eating. I was drinking too much beer, eating too many bagels, eating too much pizza. And somehow, even though I was working out with the trainer all those years, I somehow was looking worse and worse every year. Then in like 2012, my brother-in-law said, hey, let's make a bet. Let's see who's going to get in the best shape by Memorial Day. I'm very competitive, and I love competition. So I said, okay, let's game on. I was 196 pounds, 20% body fat. Between Thanksgiving and Memorial Day, I got to 154 pounds, 8% body fat. Now I'm 6'2", so I literally looked like I was dying. So people would come up to me like, oh man, wow, you lost all this weight. You look great. But then behind my back, they'd be like, dude, is he all right? Like, is he sick or something like that? But the reason why I was able to do that was because I was attentive to my diet. I was paying attention to every detail of my diet. And everyone's heard, fitness is 80% nutrition and 20% what you do in the gym. Or 80% nutrition, 50% what you do in the gym, 5% genetics, right? That's like the classic fitness statement. You know what? It's true. So until I paid attention to my nutrition, I used to literally weigh my food. I calculated my macros. I needed 180 grams of protein, 250 grams of carbs, and 95 grams of healthy fats. And I would eat the same foods every day and weigh my food out. And the funny thing is, I was being really attentive to detail. When you start to make a change in life, everyone's going to hate on that. So, and everyone's like, my wife was like, you've lost your mind. This is crazy. You eat so boring. My kids were like, Daddy, you're nuts. Everyone just thought my staff was like, thought I was nuts. But guess what? 8 to 10 weeks into that, when I would come home from work, if my wife cooked dinner, there'd be the Tupperware of chicken, the Tupperware of rice, and my scale with the cup measure. She kind of signed on to my craziness, because, that kind of attention to detail and obsessiveness, it's contagious. It's like, and it really just shows someone how dedicated you are to something. So if they're either going to become part of your team or they're not going to become part of your team. And if they're not part of your team, then you don't need them in your life, basically, right? So it's, because you're trying to do something better for yourself, right? I'm going on lots of tangents here, but I think these are all relevant to the attention to detail in some way. But that's how you make a difference. That's how you achieve a goal. That's how so when I started, being very active on social media and really trying to start the sort of, I say the second phase. I don't know if it's my second phase, but the last few years I've been very intent on spreading a message of self-empowerment, spreading a message of positivity, because I wish someone told me those things when I was an 8-year-old kid being bullied in school. And if I wish someone would say to me, hey, you know what, you could really do something substantial with your life. And fortunately I was able to do that, but sort of making mistakes and getting stifled all along the way, not having the self-belief that I could, because, it's a lot different when you've arrived at your destination, when you're starting out. But really the X factor of all the core values is attention to detail. It's in everything. When I'm doing I do a lot of cosmetic procedures in my work, and, the difference between me and somebody else, I'm not saying there's a million great doctors out there, but, I just have an obsessive level of attention to detail. When I do Botox, I use a fresh bottle of Botox for every single patient. It costs me a fortune, and it's not probably the most efficient way to run my business, but that level of attention to detail, knowing that it's not the bottle wasn't a week old or wasn't a couple of days old, or I diluted it myself, I know it's perfect. That's the X factor, and that really,
I love that
difference.
I love that. Hey, talk to me real quick as we get ready to wrap up. When I had you on the podcast last time, you talked about the moments you grew up. I remember you told me the story. You grew up working at a golf club. And I remember you said something about, I was either driving my Porsche, I was driving my Range Rover to the golf course, when I realized I'm supposed to have everything that I'm supposed to have to make me happy. And it clicked. in you. And you were like, and that's kind of when you began this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So I came from very, very humble beginnings. My mom was a single parent. I raised two boys on her own. My dad was just a bad dude. You know, I've never even met my dad. They got divorced when I was really, really little. And she, you know, she raised us both. She was a government doctor, worked for the VA hospital, but it was very, you know, not the doctor that you think about when you think of doctor. Like, you know, she was working for the government. Like, you know, when we went on vacation when I was 9 years old to Disney from New York, we went on a Greyhound bus. You know, when we went to Virginia Beach when she was working at the Army base in Virginia, because she was in the Army Reserve, she was a colonel in the Army. In the reserves, I remember that was when frozen yogurt first came out, and there was like someone, like, we're on the boardwalk, and there was someone like serving frozen yogurt, you know, so you could try it, this new thing. So my brother and I, we tried it. We're like, wow, this is so good. We're like, Mom, you know, can we get some frozen yogurt? She's like, you had the sample, like that's enough. Like, you don't need more frozen. Yeah, that's the way we grew up, you know, and in many ways that informed who I became. You know, I always had side hustles. I was always working. I always delivered pizzas, worked at ice creams. Always had. My mom gave me everything I needed for academics, but never anything else, right? So just to backtrack a little bit, when I was a kid, I live on the North Shore of Long Island. I grew up on the South Shore of Long Island, which is a very blue collar, you know, real quote unquote like normal upbringing. And I used to go to the North Shore to work. So I used to go Valley Park cars at the fancy restaurants on the North Shore. And every time I'd go up there, I was like, what is this place? Like, who are these people with these houses and these cars and, you know, these golf clubs? I even Valley Park cars at the golf club that I belong to now. Now, fast forward to 20 years, and, you know, I was mesmerized by this. So I was like, you know, this is crazy, like the way these people live. Fast forward 20 years, I have a successful practice on Fifth Avenue, New York City. I have another practice on Long Island. I had a whole bunch of people working for me, you know, financially, like way beyond anything I ever thought I was ever capable of achieving. And I actually belonged to the golf club that I used to Valley Park cars at. I had, like, you know, it was the summer that I had arrived. I was, you know, I was still working hard when I worked, but I had a lot of people working for me. So I wasn't going into the office all the time. I had a lot of free time. I was playing golf 5 times a week. I was literally driving my Ferrari to the golf club. And I was like, wow, you know, this was the summer of 2017. I was like, holy crap. I can't believe my life. Like, you know, I made it. Like, this is crazy. You know, this is crazy. Like, look at my life. Guess what? 2 weeks of doing that, and I was like, you know what? This kind of sucks. Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I was 42 at the time. I was like, I can't possibly do this for the next, hopefully, 40 plus years. Like, you know, like, this can't be it. Like, I can't be just existing on this plateau. David Meltzer, who you're going to have on later, has this part of his book, Connected to Goodness, where he talks about the arriver stage, where you've quote unquote arrived. And that was me exactly. Like, I had a fleet of fancy cars. I was living in like a mansion on the North Shore of Long Island, belonged to a golf course, and I was empty. You know, it was a short-lived period, thankfully, because I talked to one of my buddies, and I said, you know, little things started falling apart in my office. Nothing crazy, but I just knew I took my foot off the pedal. And I asked my buddy to give me $5. Just give me $5 that you think can help me, you know? So one of the books was Grant's book, The 10X Rule, 4-Hour Work Week, The E-Myth Revisited, The One Thing, and Crushing It, Gary Vee's book, were the $5 that he told me to read. And I really became very introspective. This is around the time where I started developing my core values. I started thinking about, like, what is my purpose in the world? Like, what I need to do something more substantial, you know? And for me, it was really speaking to the young me and telling him, listen, you can do these amazing things with your life, and you also deserve to have these amazing things in your life. I didn't feel guilty about it, but I just felt a little bit lost. And then at that point, I really started, you know, if you check out my social media channels, you know, it's all kinds of crazy, weird mix of stuff, like a lot of these pimple popping videos, and but I
saw one the other day, dude. I'm like, I couldn't even watch it. I'm like, I can't do it, man.
People love those, man. But then I have a podcast which really kind of focuses on folks who have inspiring, positive stories, very similar to your podcast. But I also do a lot of mindset, motivational stuff, really because I think it's such a powerful message. The more positivity you can put into the world, the more empowerment. What this platform is all about, what you guys are doing, the more that you can empower folks to really believe in themselves. You can't hear that message too many times. There's no one that's ever going to tell you, shit, I don't want to hear this again. Because every time it's spun a different way. There's like some sort of tangible part of everyone's story that might really resonate with you.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, Dr. Mudgil, man, I appreciate our time, my friend. I always enjoy when you and I get together. Thank you for spending time. Tell your wife and your family we're honored that you took some time with us. And dude, thank you so much. And Stacy put over here on the link how you guys can get connected with Dr. Muggio's podcast is phenomenal. His Instagram handle is on there as well. He's one of the guys I follow. He's one of the guys we're constantly commenting and posting each other stuff. And that's another thing I love about you, man, is you're sharing my stuff. I'm sharing your stuff. Like Steve Trang, Steve's sharing. I love seeing influencers, regardless of what background they come from. Literally, I'm as encouraged when you do well as when I do well, and that's what I love about you. Love the heart, my friend.
Hey man, one last that's a mindset of abundance, and that's what it's all about, man.
I appreciate you, man.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate you.
I got to bounce, kid, because I got to get home to my kids. My wife is on a girls' night out, so she told me.
You'll do it, man. Take care of them kiddos. Take them some high C and some Cheez-Its, and you'll be good to go.
Great to see all you guys.
See you, buddy. Hey, guys, listen, again, my name's Ken. Thanks for being a part of our Grow Stack Drive virtual summit. Up next is Chef Serena Poon. I had Serena on my podcast about a month and a half ago. Serena is a leading chef, nutritionist to the Hollywood elite. She has a phenomenal story. And I had her on. She's appeared in Vogue, Elle, InStyle, Forbes, Business Insider, Huffington Post, Today Show. You get it. I mean, she's been everywhere. But can I say this real quick, guys? As we get rolling right here, I have been around few people with such a humble spirit and a heart to serve people and help people in their wellness and in the nutrition as I have Chef Serena. Serena, it's good to have you tonight, sweetheart.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. I sure can.
Great. Hi. Thank you so much for such a beautiful intro, Ken. I really appreciate that. And it's so great to see all your faces. Thank you for being here, you guys, and for welcoming me. This is really cool. I'm trying to figure out how I can see myself when I'm talking. I'm not the most Zoom proficient. Anyway.
We have a little technology challenged over there.
Yeah. But I really appreciate your intro and just you highlighting what is actually going to be what I share as my one core principle. So, when at first, you invited me to do this and you said, okay, there's 10 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay, 10 minutes. And you said, choose, one core principle. And I thought, oh, wait, but there's so many things I can talk about, and then I kind of went back and I thought about my journey, how I began, and I'll share that with you guys in just a few minutes, and just sort of like the ebb and flows and the dips and what got me through every one of those dips, because we all have them and we're kind of living in one right now in some ways. And that's service, exactly as you said, I think about what fuels my passion, what fuels my energy, what I always go back to. And it's service to others. And that at the end of the day, if you're doing something that's bigger than you, there will always be a way. So, for those of you guys who I haven't met yet, so meeting hi. I began my journey as a chef and just going into nutrition because both my parents had cancer, and they were both really young. So they were both in their 40s. My dad was diagnosed with stage 4. I was still in college at the time, and it just completely shifted my perspective, and he was obviously doing like chemo and radiation, but we're Chinese. And so he's drinking these teas from Hong Kong and China. And, we're also doing Chinese medicine, and just that journey of seeing what he had to go through. And he left us after a little over a year. And then 2 months later, my mom, who was only 45 at the time, was also diagnosed with cancer. So that experience just led me to, there's so much heartbreak, obviously, in that, but it was sort of like, okay, what can I take from this? What can I learn from this? What can I do with this experience to make it into something more, and with my parents in mind? And so that's when I thought, okay, there's got to be a way to do this so that there's some comfort to people. There's got to be a way that I can help heal people. And even if we can't heal the cancer, we can heal the symptoms, or at least heal your heart and your soul in this process. And that's what started my journey. And throughout my journey, I've had some of my own health issues, which I've shared with Ken on my podcast with him, that you can check out. But with each dip, and I've had 8 surgeries. And one of them, which is really after one of them, which really blew up my business after with this core principle of mine, was that I had a surgery and I nearly died because I had a hematoma like 10, 12 days out. And I wasn't able to use the right side of the left side of my body. And as a chef who I'm like, I'm cooking for people, and, a lot of them are very high profile, and I'm doing their nutrition. I'm sort of like, how am I going to make money? How am I going to earn a living? And it was just remembering what I was doing for people, even in what I do as a chef, and how my end goal is to make their lives better. And I ended up opening up an extension of my business that was just consulting about nutrition, and signed on one of my biggest clients, to this day is still one of my clients, that ended up, that just became another step into growing my business. So I don't think it really matters what industry you're in, whether or not you're a coach, or you're in real estate, or you're in health and wellness, whatever it is. If there's this principle that what you're doing for your customers is to help make their lives better, if that purpose to serve them is beyond just, your bank account and your success, I mean, that's going to take you so far, because the opportunities fly in, and the connections fly in. And even in these times when I couldn't even use, my left arm to cook, here is a massive opportunity that came in, because I sat down and thought, okay, what is it that I'm really trying to achieve with my career? What is it that I'm doing? Why am I so purposeful about the foods that I'm cooking and that I'm teaching? And then this came in. And even, you guys, I had COVID. And in this time of COVID, where I was so blessed to meet Ken and so many other people, we were churning out content as much as possible. My sister and I both had COVID, and we were quarantined together. And we were working so hard. And with that in mind, if you have COVID, rest more. But, we were working so hard because I had so many people coming to me just wanting to know what they could do to support their immune system, what they could do with their nutrition, what they could do to protect themselves and their family, that I was just churning out all this information of just wanting to help people, just wanting them to give themselves the tools, whether it was mind, whether it was body, whether it's soul, because I'm also a Reiki master. So I didn't even give that background. I'm a chef, nutritionist, and a Reiki master, which I think Ken already shared. But that has, in the last, few months, has actually massively increased my business, because now we've become this resource for people, and the traction is built on our on Instagram, my social media platform. And it was so unexpected. That wasn't why we were giving out all this information, bringing on expert. It was just to serve you. It was just to serve people. And I just feel so blessed again by how that's, it's become an extension of my business. It's just growing, and we have partnerships and collaborations flowing in every day. So I'm not sure if that was 10 minutes, but
you're good. Let me ask you a question, Serena. This is the one thing. I love your heart. I absolutely. The first time I interviewed you and you had you on podcast, I was like, you have such a heart to serve people. When my kids, I've got 4 daughters, 24, 21, 17, and will be 12 in a couple of weeks. I took her out today to get her nails done and eat some pho. So we went to my favorite Vietnamese noodle soup and got some pho this afternoon.
I love it.
So but when my 24-year-old was in kindergarten, I would take him to school, pick him up almost every day. And I would ask them 3 questions. I'd say, what does a servant leader do? And there's 3 answers. And they would say, Dad, servant leaders put other people's needs before their own. They do things without being asked. And they do things right the first time. Mm-hmm. So when I'd pick them up in the afternoon, I'd say, hey, what did you do today? And they knew when I picked them up in the afternoon, okay, give me one thing that you did today to be a servant leader. Mm-hmm. You have that same spirit. Talk to where did that come from? Like where in your life did it? I just want to serve people and I want to help people.
I think some of it is cultural. I'm Chinese American, and I think that it's somewhat just in my upbringing in a way to want to, well, maybe it's not it's definitely just how I've been since I was a kid, just always kind of wanting to please. But, it wasn't so much please in a way where I'm getting some sort of recognition. It was please where it's like, I want to make you feel good. I want to make my parents feel proud to be my parents. You know, it wasn't about getting that reward or, you know, acknowledgement to the self at the end of the day. And I just, you know, it's always kind of been in my nature, you know, just to want to make someone else feel good, want to make someone else feel better. And then when the opportunity came to kind of merge things that I had learned, you know, my schooling, and just to really expand my mind in a way where I can bring tools together to help people do it for themselves. And I think that was sort of the biggest thing about the servant leader, is that you can't do it for everybody, right? It's really about teaching them how to do it for themselves.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned to me when I had you on the podcast a month or two ago was you were going to school for maybe be an attorney or a doctor.
I was studying to be an attorney, actually.
And you switched when your father got sick, or like during that time. Talk about that transition, because for me, that shows a heart of service of, hey, you know what, I'm willing to. And you had shared with me that had been your dream your whole life, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I wanted to be Indiana Jones, so I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Indiana Jones.
But you know, I'd gone to school, and I think part of it is also the culture. And I think that a lot of us come from different backgrounds and different cultures, and that need to please was wanting to be the first, you know, attorney. I was the oldest grandchild, the oldest kid, and I thought I wanted to do this to make my parents proud. But when all of this was happening, I knew, culturally speaking, that going from being an attorney or an astronaut or a doctor or a dentist and deciding to be a chef who is in the service industry was not necessarily going to be well received. But I did it anyway, because I saw, you know, watching my dad, watching my parents, I saw that there was so much more that we could do, especially at the time. At the time, there's so much more about integrative and functional nutrition and medicine now. At the time, it was just very straightforward, just allopathic Western medicine. You take the drugs, and, you know, I know that there's obviously an amazing doctor on our call as well. And so that's not like a bad thing. It's great, but there's also other modalities and other ways you can support your body and your system. And clearly with what I do, I have a practice called Culinary Alchemy, and it's where I really fuse functional nutrition with what I call spiritual nutrition. So it's very much whole body, mind, and soul healing and optimization of your health. So we're working on your physical body as well as your mental, emotional, and spiritual body. And so, you know, when I saw that there was so much more that we could do, that's what really motivated me to just dive in. And I realized people just don't know. I didn't know. We didn't know. And I thought, gosh, if people knew that they could eat certain foods and it could not just help their physical body, but it can also bring a sense of comfort and healing and nurture. That's not like, let me dive into an apple pie.
Right.
You know,
I was about to say a hamburger, a cheeseburger brings me some comfort on the inside sometimes.
Well, a cheeseburger on occasion, okay. But yeah, so that's when I just realized, gosh, there's so much that we can do. And that keeps expanding, right? We're all here as entrepreneurs and leaders, and our goal is to help our community in the ways that we can. And so that just keeps growing. That just keeps expanding.
One final question. You talked about, and I love how life throws us obstacles. And at one moment we're looking at it going, this is devastating. But when we get on the other side, and this is what I tell my coaching clients all the time. The reason everyone needs a coach is everybody needs somebody who has a 30,000 foot view of what's going on there, because you see down the road, hey, here's what's coming. Hey, let me help you prepare. So you get sick, you have the hematoma, you can't use the whole right side of your body.
Left side.
And you're like, how am I going to cook? How am I going to do what I do? But out of that births a completely brand new revenue stream and a new business for you. So talk about that. Talk about that process, the doubt, the what am I going to do? And then the aha moment when you went, oh, this could be for the good.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think applicable to everybody because we all have our super down moments, right? Especially with what's happened recently, there's been a lot of financial down moments. And, something that I talk about constantly with my community is that you literally have all the answers within you. So, from a physical place for healing, we have all the tools literally within us. We just need a couple little extra tools and guides. And when I was in that moment, and it was a tough moment, it truly was. I had, you're bleeding out, but it's internally bleeding, and I was by myself, and that whole thing happened. Fast forward, now I'm trying to recover, and I don't know what to do. And it was sort of like, again, okay, what is it? How did I get started? Like, why am I here to begin with? Like, what was it that I was trying to do with my life? And it's not always about the particular industry that you're in. It could be anything. You could be in real estate, you could be in finance, you could be selling insurance, you could be a chef, a doctor, whatever it is. It's just going back to your why. Like, what is it that I'm trying to achieve with what I started out with? And what I was trying to achieve was my path to help other people, my path, my way of helping other people feel better. And so it's a really large kind of a principle, but it applies to everybody. But how was I doing it? So I was doing it through food, and I was doing it through food hands-on. But then it was just like, okay, but I don't have to be hands-on with the food in order to help people and to help teach them and share and help heal them. So that's kind of how the thought process was. It was like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this to help people. What's my way? What's my avenue of doing that? It's been through food. Okay, so I was doing it hands-on. There's got to be a different way. So what was I doing while I'm hands-on cooking or catering for people? I'm teaching them about their nutrition. Okay, so now this part I can't do for a bit, or however long. I didn't know when or if I was going to heal. But I can still do this part. I can still do the knowledge part. What is it that I know? And I realized I knew so much, and I just wasn't putting it to paper. I just wasn't creating something tangible for people because I was just giving it out, as I gave away the food. And so then that became a whole platform and a whole side of my business that grew exponentially so quickly. And I still didn't have use of the left side of my body at the time. And it was just feeding people all this information. And with that, it just kept growing. So
that's phenomenal. Serena, thank you so much. And again, I said this to you on my podcast. You've brought tremendous honor on your family, just your heart to serve, your heart to take care of other people. I love watching your Instagram lives. I get to pop on every now and then when you come on and watch, and just absolutely love what you're doing. Honored that you were here with us, and I thank you for taking time out. It speaks to who you are as an individual and as a person.
Thank you so much, Ken. It really was an honor to be here with you guys. If you ever want to connect, I'm on Instagram. And Ken, just thank you so much. Thank you so much for being an inspiration and putting all of this together. It's really been cool, just like watching your growth.
Yes, thank you.
So,
well, you've been a big part of that and a big supporter, and I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you. And guys, listen, Serena's information is there in the chat section. You can click on her Instagram. You can click on her Facebook page and check her out. She does a lot of Instagram lives. I believe, how many days a week? 5 days a week, Serena? How many days a week are you going live right now?
I go live at least 4, usually 5 days a week. I took a break last week and a little bit this week just to do some more, just upping some of my healing modalities for post-COVID stuff. But we'll start back up next week. So it's about 4 or 5 days a week. We have tons of guests lined up. So it's really, and they're amazing for sharing their expertise. So,
Serena, thank you, sweetheart.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Have a good evening. Hey, guys, I'm going to bring my good friend Zach Tatum in. Zach is on tonight. Let me bring Zach in. I wanted to introduce you guys to Zach for just a minute. Zach is not only a good friend of mine, he's been my graphic design guy for about 12 years, but Zach is also a partner with the show. Zach, are you there, my friend?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, with the guitars in the background. So Zach is the co-owner of Market House Media as well as Site Now. So all of the stuff that you guys see, all the graphic design, the website, the sign-on process, everything that we do for Grow Stack Drive. Zach and his company are our sponsors. So literally we are able to put this on for you guys for free because they literally donate their work to be able to do this. And that's something they do. And I wanted to bring Zach on tonight. Again, Zach's been my friend for over 10 years. Him and his wife, Perry, two beautiful little kids. I was commenting on Zach today. Zach had sent a picture. How much weight have you lost over the past few years?
Gosh, probably 70.
70 pounds. Zach sent a picture to me one day last week or week before last from actually when he was connected in my church several years ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was like, oh wow, that used to be you.
You should have seen my face when I saw it like seeing him back again. I was like, that's mind blowing.
Amazing. Zach, tell everybody real quick about kind of what you've got going on and what you guys are doing at Site Now and at Market House.
Yeah. So Market House, basically what we do there is we take your business and market it for you. We're all about marketing. We build custom websites through Market House. Then we also have Site Now, which is theme-based, right? So we build all your stuff. Think of it like Wix or Squarespace, but we do all the work for you. There's no sense in you trying to figure out how to build it yourself, how to, you got to focus on your business. You don't have time to sit down and figure out how to put all that stuff together or learn design trends and all that sort of stuff. Give that to us. That's what we like to do. And that's why we've created Market House and Site Now. We want to see businesses grow and succeed, and we like to be a part of the journey. And yes, we are giving away 2 30-minute sessions. We give away 30-minute sessions for both Market House and Site Now. And I think Ken's putting the links there for you.
I just put the link on there. So Zach, I just wanted you to put a face with a name again.
Yeah.
We've been friends for over 10 years now, and Zach and his company have been super generous to Grow Stack Drive to be able to help us put this on for free for you guys and bring in some phenomenal communicators, thought leaders from all kinds of different spaces. Zach, thanks for being with us tonight. I've got that link there. They're doing a free 30-minute consultation. I'm going to bring in Melissa Stewart. Melissa, you there, girl?
I'm here.
Hey, how are you doing? So
doing
Melissa just typed in the thing. Yay, Zach. He's my graphic design guy too.
That's my guy.
So I brought Melissa on. We've got a couple minutes before we bring on my buddy Jared Mirsky. I brought Melissa on. Melissa, talk to everyone. Tell them kind of what the last 3 months has been like since you've got connected with Grow Stack Drive, and really how you found out about me.
Well, I met Ken through watching a Grant Cardone live one day. So it was beginning of COVID. I was out of work. I'm a hairdresser. I own a salon, and I own several other small businesses. So I got nothing else to do but watch lives all day long. So there's Ken on Grant's, and full of energy, full of enthusiasm, positivity, and it just grabbed me. And so I did something that honestly was out of my comfort zone. I just messaged Ken personally through Instagram and said, hey, loved your positivity, loved your energy. And he messaged me right back. And so that's how it all started. And it has just been a whirlwind since then. So
it's been, I guess, 4 months.
Probably 4 months. Yeah, hard to believe that.
3 to 4. I know, right? 3 to 4 months. It was funny. I remember you DM me. You went, "Hey, is this really Ken, or do you have a handler or somebody on your team?" I said, "No. I do all my DMs. Nobody touches my Instagram account." And so we got connected. I invited Melissa to be a part of our Grow Stack Drive online coaching program where I think we 33, 34 people. We just finished a couple of weeks ago it's an 8-week coaching course, but we actually did a couple bonus weeks on there as well. So I invited Melissa to come along for the journey and said, hey, listen, here's what we've got going on. We'd love for you to be a part of this. So Melissa jumped into coaching. Talk about the relationships and the people that you met through that, Melissa.
Yeah, that was a game changer for me. So if any of you are watching this or listening to this and you're not in the GSD, the Grow Stack Drive, you got to get on this because it literally just blew the ceiling off of all of my businesses, every single one of them. I own, like I said, 4, and I've always said small businesses, and that's the way I looked at them, were small businesses. And I never thought about expanding each of them in different ways. I was really focused on my coaching business, which is I'm a life and a health coach. So I was kind of obsessed with that and not thinking about these other businesses, but getting in this group with these people and networking with these people, 35 people that now I feel like I know them. I've never met them in person, but I feel like we're friends, and I'm in an accountability group with some of them now. And they are just great for support and ideas and brainstorming and encouragement. And they have literally, because like Ken says, get in a room with people that think bigger than you do.
Yes.
And I was a small thinker, and I didn't think that I was, but I was. And when I got in that room, it was like, so that's probably been one of my favorite things about meeting Ken, is getting networked with people that are like him, that are excited and that want everything out of life and are just going and Ken challenges me all the time. And
I did it today.
Yeah, you did it today. Yes, he does this all the time to me. Gets me out of my comfort zone, tries to get me to do things that are scary, and pushes me and challenges me and gets me to do things that I never dreamed possible. He's mentioned things to me that I never even thought of doing. And at first I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. And then it's like, you know what? I could do that. So I'm getting ready to buy a commercial building to.
Okay, slow down. I don't want to get ahead. Slow down a little bit.
All right, slow down.
Talk a little bit. So you own a salon.
Yes.
You literally were starting a coaching or thinking about doing coaching, and you also own a cleaning business where you do residential and commercial cleaning.
Correct.
Talk about the growth you've seen in all three of those areas since you got connected with Growth Stack Drive.
Yeah, like in the last, actually, to be honest, in the last like 5 weeks, even 6 weeks, I've added 8 new properties for house cleaning. I only have 2 employees, so we're actually at a place in our growth where I'm ready to hire a new employee. So that's awesome. The salon, we had our biggest gross revenue ever in the history of my salon, ever in 1 month. We've increased our retail sales, something that I was not, working on. We increased retail sales by 70%, and they're still growing. I had my best day of sales this last week. So this kind of stuff I wasn't even thinking about. And then my coaching business, I had no paying clients. I was working with a couple of people for free, and Ken started challenging me to start making offers and to start getting people. I ended up signing up 27 people just for free coaching, like a consultation. I now have 4 paying clients that are paying me, and they're in a 3-month contract. And I really only can handle 5. So I'm almost maxed out with everything else that I have going on with my coaching. And I had nothing when I met him. So
and you've never made 6 figures in your life.
Never have made 6 figures. I mean, I don't have a college degree. I'm just, this all me by myself, just, building these small little businesses. Never dreamed of something like that. I thought that was only for people that, but you know what? I'm starting to learn.
You happened to stumble across Uncle G's Instagram Live with this guy.
Yes.
And this year, I think the projections you gave me were you going to be mid 6 figures for the first time ever.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hit 150 this year. So, I mean, 100 doesn't even seem like it's enough anymore. So, but yeah, I'm definitely hitting six figures this year. I'm on pace for that. Everything's growing. And yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. It really.
You called me probably 2 weeks ago about this commercial property, about stopping renting. She was renting for her salon. She's like, hey, I've got this commercial building. Now, I'm an agent. You guys know I do residential commercial real estate. Got a team in Birmingham and a team in Atlanta. And I've been walking Mel and her husband through this process. And they're looking to close on their first real estate and actually expand the size of her salon and hire more people.
It'll double it. And I already have a new booth renter that just texted me tonight that wants to join up with us. We're going to add a nail tech. I mean, it's gonna basically double the size of my salon, both in physical space and in employees. And then one of the coolest things you did that I can't even believe that I ever have considered, and now I know it's going to happen, is you told me I should hire someone as my executive assistant. And that, like my first reaction to that kind of stuff is like, Ken, I can't afford something like that. Are you crazy? That's my first reaction. And now it's like, I'm going to hire someone as my executive assistant. Like 100% is going to happen. We already know the date that she's going to start. I mean, and it's like 5 months from now, but that's because that's what she wants. But I know what I got to pay her, and I know what we got to do to get her. And that's going to help me tremendously. But I never would have dreamed of that.
What's been the number one difference in you in the last 4 months walking through this online coaching group and seeing what you've done? What's been the game changer in you? What's been the one thing?
it's got to be mindset. For me, it was mindset. And I've worked on mindset. I thought my mindset was where it needed to be, but honestly, I was still thinking way too small. I had myself in a box so small, and I did not realize the potential. And these people have just pushed me, and that's been key. I really think that it's that mindset, and it's just really getting around those big thinkers. That's the biggest thing.
Awesome. Melissa, thanks for being with us tonight, sweetheart. I appreciate you.
Thanks for bringing me on.
Super grateful for you, girl.
Well,
hey, listen, guys, real quick
too.
on the bottom, there's a link for growstackdrive.com/coaching. We're actually going to kick off our online group. I shared earlier about everything that's coming on Kajabi in the video series. We're doing 3 coaching tracks: Grow, Stack, Drive. Grow is mindset, Stack is strategy, Drive is about multiplication through significance. growstackdrive.com/coaching. That link, if you'll go to it right now, will get you to sign up for our free bonus weeks that start next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to kick that off. I'm getting blown up by all of the 33 or 34 people that were in the first group going, when are we starting? When are we starting? The cost for this group is going to be $699. If you're an alumni and you were in the last group, you get in for $399. For being in our initial group. Melissa, thank you for being on. Guys, listen, I've got my buddy Jared Mirsky. Jared just posted there. If you would take a minute as well, Jared, go on Jared's new YouTube channel, follow him. This cat is brilliant when it comes to marketing, absolutely brilliant at what he's doing. He's grown Wick and Mortar to be the brand expert in the cannabis industry. And so, Jared, are you there, my friend?
I'm here.
How you doing, bro?
I'm good. Good. I just took a power nap. I'm ready. I'm on my second charge. And, I think I've got another 6 hours in me, the old entrepreneur spirit.
I love it. Hey, Jared, tell everybody where you are, a little bit about your background and your business. And man, you got 10 minutes to rock and roll, baby.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I started the very first cannabis-focused branding and marketing firm about 11 years ago. We're called Wick and Mortar. We have clients pretty much all over the world. Ranging from public companies to celebrities, artists, athletes to, small new startups. My mission since starting the company was to change the perception of cannabis and now CBD on a global level, one brand at a time. So we've made it affordable and easy for companies alike who are entering the space or who have been in the space for some time to get access, to creative resources and marketing opportunities. So that's Wick and Mortar in a nutshell.
But I love it, dude. Talk to our people. What's been like the biggest key for you as you've grown? How long have you guys been doing business? And talk about just the growth you've seen over the past few years.
Well, we've been around for over 11 years. The growth we've seen over the past few years has been tremendous, but because of the political landscape, there is that ebb and flow the industry and CBD space often have. And so it's been really interesting. Fortunately for us, we've been around since the very beginning. I mean, during a time where, and the only ancillary businesses that exist was like High Times and hydroponic shops. So, we're talking about really carving out an area of an industry that really had no attention to detail with respect to brands or how consumers or future consumers would, identify strains in relation to the experience they have. To go back to your other question, I think I would have to say that one of the things that I did early on enough, knowing that I was entering into an industry, is focusing my attention on a niche. And I think that's the biggest thing and takeaway that most people can learn, is that if you focus your business, on a niche, you'll find it much, much easier to be successful. I took that a bit further and also focused on not just the niche with respect to my business, but also myself. I recognized that there was a huge opportunity to build a personal brand for myself around what would be a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so, I spent a lot of time, speaking at conferences. I speak at, anywhere from 50 to 100 in a year. And, now I write for Forbes. I've been writing for Forbes for like 3 years, and Entrepreneur for 4, and High Times and MG and all these publications. So I really recognize the power of becoming my own publicist, so to speak. And it wasn't difficult. It was just a matter of finding articles that were written about subject matter topics, or rather topics in relation to what I like to talk about or what I like to write about. And I would just go and message the the writer at the bottom, I'd find out where they, who they were and where I could find their social media, and I'd connect with them. And, the next time that they had an article that they wanted to write about, they found me. And so you get into this network and you start to meet new relationships, and it really took off. So it was good.
Hey, talk to me about some of the hurdles, some of the obstacles that you face that you and I talked about when I had you on the podcast. Talk to me about some of those moments where you were like, I'm not sure I can do this, but you literally just kept putting one foot in front of the other.
Well, I had a realization after our call, and I realized that one of the reasons why when I was younger, I was such a rule breaker was because I clearly had a hard time following directions sometimes. But more importantly, I realized that my personality is someone who tends to like to go against the grain. And when someone tells me I can't do something, I do it. I only wish that in my even earlier years, I had recognized that my relationship with that emotion or that feeling should have been directed towards starting a business where no one told me I couldn't start. And that was really what was the cannabis industry. My mom, God bless her soul, I love her to death. She thought I was selling weed. She's like, it can't be real. You can't, cannabis isn't federally legal. That's not how my mom sounds, but she's close enough. And, she's like, there's no way you have a, branding and marketing company that's focused on cannabis. Now, don't get me wrong. There were clients that paid me in weed a couple times, but, at the end of the day, I was there to really usher new brands into an industry that was it just didn't look good, so wanted to fix that.
How did you see the opportunity, Jared? I think that's one of the things that I admire about you. You saw something before anybody else saw it. You saw something and you were like, hey, this could be huge. And you seized the opportunity. You maximize the moment.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, it's about finding and carving out your niche, and a friend of mine said to me a long time ago, cause I started my first business when I was 19, graphic and web design company called Mirsky Media. My last name's Mirsky, so it made sense. And then, working with small businesses, having to bounce from one niche to another, lawyers and real estate and dentists. And, it just felt like I was never satisfied about working for one area of focus or one type of business. And I felt like with all of the relationships you can obtain in the focus of one area, you can do a lot of damage, especially with, what we're doing, like, Wick and Mortar. Yeah, we're a service-based business, but our end all is to be more of a brand house. We have 10 of our own brands that we're launching into, a national and global supply chain that we've also built through the THC sector that we've established with all of the clients that we've had over the years. So what I have now is more of a blue ocean strategy in the sense that rather than launching brands for a bunch of people, we can launch our own brands and then license those brands through existing cultivators that have the license to grow without the need for us to touch the plant, thus giving us the ability to fully access the true potential of our network. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
And so that's fascinating. Like how much time during the day do you, I tell my clients all the time, it's not working in the business, it's working on the business. Like taking time to really like meditate, think through what's going on in your business. Like what kind of time do you take? Because obviously you've come up with some phenomenal ideas and really some trend-setting ideas for your business and for the cannabis industry. Talk to me about that process. Like how are you coming up with some of these ideas?
Smoke a lot of weed.
You actually did it on my podcast. I'm gonna be really honest with you. You're the only guy that's ever lit up on my podcast.
You know what? I think that's also probably what makes me different. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid to be myself, and right. I'm not afraid to be silly and goofy and try experimental things. I think being a thought leader and not an influencer, right, is a huge difference. And I often look for creative ways to develop unique opportunities to establish marketing strategies and campaigns that nobody else is doing. And because the cannabis industry is still very much in its infancy stage, most business owners aren't really willing to take that risk, especially because I haven't seen anyone do that before. Well, yeah, you have in other industries, but because it hasn't been done in cannabis, people are very like, skeptical to try something outside of the box. So I'm just like, screw it. I'm gonna do all the outside the box shit myself. And so we filmed a documentary. So if you all went to ahumboldtstory.com, we filmed an entire 20-minute documentary on the timeline of the cannabis industry from the eyes of a cultivator in Humboldt, now from then until now, right? And so that was a marketing piece that we created in an effort to create more value in outdoor grown cannabis, because outdoor grown cannabis is seen as less quality. But it's not true, because if you look at Belvedere in relation to Everclear is 100 proof, but it tastes like shit and it's going to give you a hangover. That doesn't make it a better product. And then there are a ton of things in relation to, strain specificity, people, transactions being made based off of strains. I mean, anyone on this chat might go into a dispensary. I don't know how many of you smoke weed. Let me know in the chat box. Just curious. And no one's going to tell. But the reason I ask is because when most consumers purchase products, they're looking for an intended experience. And because most products purchased in dispensaries are all based off of strain specificity, people don't know what the hell Blue Dream means or Granddaddy Purple. And, most sophisticated individuals aren't going to go into a dispensary and, excuse my language, but this is the name of a strain. Ken, you're not going to see Ken go, hey, I'm really interested in purchasing that Alaskan Thunderfuck, which is the name of a strain. I didn't make that up. That's just the way it is. But my point is that, consumers base their purchasing decisions off of the experience they're intended to have or how the brand makes them feel. And I think there's a huge disconnect between intention and experience. So anyway,
one of the things I have written down in my 10X planner is, what problem can I solve today? And literally what you've done and what you repeatedly do is you see problems, you create a solution to the problem, and you bring it to the marketplace. What makes you, Jared, and this is one thing I love. Dude, your whole Spider-Man video, I about died the other day when I saw your Spider-Man video, when you climbing up the side of the office. That was hilarious. Dude, you're not afraid of anything. You're just not afraid.
No, everyone told me I couldn't build a business in the cannabis industry 11 years ago. I was like, watch me.
So where do you think that comes from in you?
From my parents. My dad, his name's Gary Mirsky. He, used to own 8 Gold's gyms in Southern California. My mom is, an entrepreneur as well. They all came from the fitness industry. So I watched that happen. And more importantly, I would get fired from pretty much every job I had after about 3 months. It was weird. It was like this, I would either quit or I'd get fired. And it was because I just got so bored. And this was obviously when I was a teenager. I've been self-employed since I was 20, right? So, I just never felt like I was satisfied. I felt like there was always a better way of doing something. And maybe that's just the stubbornness in me. But, I think at the end of the day, the cannabis industry was certainly my calling, and I'm glad I jumped into it, and I have no regrets. I think that every choice I made, and have made in my past, good and bad, has given me the opportunity to get and be where I am at today. And I think it takes us as individuals, leaders, and, people alike to really dig deep within yourself and go, why am I here today? And how did I get here? What is it that I learned from that situation that has allowed me to become comfortable and confident when I speak on stage, right? And there's all of these things. And I think if you reflect often enough, you can find a lot of gems in your own lessons.
That's good, dude. Well, man, I'm proud to call you my friend. Dude, I love you. You're fearless, bro. You're absolutely fearless. Hey, my guy Nate's got a question for you real quick. Nate, what you got, buddy?
Hey, Jared, what's up, man? Thanks for your time. A quick question. A lot of us on here, we own small businesses like you probably, you do. And as you see, like the legalization, both recreation and medically going across the state side, nothing on the federal side yet. But you see some major players getting in the game, like Anheuser-Busch. Just they're investing. You see some of the top players in the game starting to slowly diversify some of their. How do you, for people like us that there's some other big people in the industry room we look up to and we see they're in the space. How do you continue to stay differentiate yourself amongst the big boys that are trying to get in the game?
So luckily I work with the big boys. So I do consulting for Pfizer, L'Oreal, Unilever, P&G. So I know what types of brands these companies are.
Never mind, you're working with the big cats.
Well, and they come to me for, consulting in relation to, areas of focus for them based on very niche product categories. So let me start by saying the future of cannabis is different than the future of CBD, but at a point they will come together. And so the future of cannabis is identified, or the current state of cannabis is identified as each independent state operates based on their own rules. But when federal legalization happens, you're going to see border crossing occur, which means, and border crossing, I mean distribution border crossing, which is going to create a huge downsize in the amount of small farmers who are barely staying alive as it is. But what's interesting about this world versus the traditional CPG world is that brands also own their manufacturing facilities, whereas that's not often the frequency of most brands in the CPG world. RX Bar sold to Kellogg for $600 million, and they don't own the factory or facility their products are made in. They just own the formulations, the branding, and the distribution. So many companies today are jumping into the industry thinking, I got to be a manufacturer. Well, no, you don't. You can build a strong brand and then take that money and invest it into your marketing and branding and then develop licensing deals with cultivators in each respective state. And the reason why that's important to do is also because when cannabis goes federally legal and you need a new manufacturer, you can move if need be and have that flexibility. But the biggest piece of all of this, and this goes without saying for both cannabis and CBD, is that if you're going to build a brand, it needs to be niche focused. So, when you look at, I'll give you an example, Hershey's, right? Hershey's has their hero chocolate bars, right? Then they created Hershey's Kisses as a seasonal item. It took off, went really well. People started using that as an ingredient. So then people were making Hershey's cookies and they had Hershey's little mini kisses and big kisses. And so they were like, we've got an ingredient brand here. So we're going to call this Hershey's chocolate. And then every sub brand we create is going to have Hershey's chocolate in it. So they had Almond Joy, Kit Kat, Reese's, right? And those all are made with Hershey's chocolate. And that's the formulation, right? So if you look at CBD, right, you can have this unique formulation. Like I have a proprietary water soluble CBD product that the onset is 15 seconds, both THC and CBD. So if you wanted an edible that hits in 15 seconds, I can make that, which is crazy. So the formulation is niche, right? Then you take that formulation and then you create multiple brands from it, right? You can create, so we have a horse brand, it's called Horse Powder, and it's for equestrian. And we have one called Morsey's for sleep, and one called Arctic for, 15-second onset. TikTok, it's good for cold and warm beverages. So it's the same ingredient, but we're able to use it for all of these different brands because we can slightly tweak it to retrofit all of these different these different mass market niche intentions, right? You look at NyQuil and DayQuil, they don't have an oral care brand. They don't have a pet brand. So brands in the cannabis industry are trying to be everything to everyone, right? They're trying to put one brand name with every product under the sun, which creates zero confidence and very little customer loyalty.
No, bro. That's extremely helpful. You don't know who I am, but I work with Ken. But man, all y'all know me on here, a lot of you, like what he just shared was gold. The riches are on the niches, and the way he explained how he sets himself apart, even with, like, you're a premier consultant for the top end people in the CBD industry.
Yep.
That's your niche, bro. You help people.
Hey, we only bring the best of the best on Growth Tech Drive virtual summits.
Powerful, bro, man. Congrats to your success, man. Thanks for sharing.
Hey, Jared, thank you for being here, my friend. I appreciate you. And I'm looking for some more Spider-Man videos to pop up on my phone.
You bet. And one final thought, if I may,
yeah, go ahead.
Because getting into the industry is so much fun. I'm telling you from experience, I get to smoke weed with my clients all the time. It's great. But if you're developing a niche brand, you also stand the most success for having a much faster exit. So if you're looking to build a business with a faster acquisition opportunity, niche is always the way to go. And do your due diligence, do your research. I really appreciate you having me on the show, Ken. And
brilliant and fearless. You're freaking brilliant and fearless, bro. I love it, man. I love it. Jared, I appreciate you, my friend.
You.
Thanks, man. Hey, guys, I've got my friend Steve Trang coming up next. Steve is the founder of Real Estate Disruptors Movement. Started a podcast in the middle of 2018 to inspire wholesalers in real estate. I think Steve, when I talked to him last time, had about 120 some odd agents. I love this guy's story. Steve, you don't know this, but I've told several friends after I had you on my podcast a couple months ago, if I quit doing my real estate team, if I wasn't a broker, and I wanted to move to a certain part of the country and work for one guy, Steve Trang would be that guy that I would work.
That's awesome. I can't believe it, but that's awesome.
Well, you can believe it, and that's because you're humble and you're crushing it. Steve, take a second and tell everybody a little about who you are, what you got going on, and we'd love to hear from you on that one thing, man, that's made you successful.
Yeah. So thank you for the introduction. And like you said, I've got a podcast. I'm the same guy I was before I started the podcast. Like a lot of people that eventually have success as a 10-year overnight success. So business sucked for the first 11 years. Started a podcast, and then everything just did a 180. I'm not saying life was terrible, but you eat a lot of dirt on the way up, right? I mean, getting kicked in the teeth is kind of the journey of an entrepreneur. And so along the way, I started a brokerage, started a title company, did a JV with a mortgage company, create an app. We buy investment properties, did a lot of self-education, learning how to market on my own, create my websites, pay-per-click, anything and everything. So the good thing is I learned a lot of things. The bad thing is that I spent a lot of money in places that didn't work. But again, that's part of the journey. That's part
of learning the lesson. Hey, talk to us tonight about, Steve, kind of what's that one thing, that one principle for you that really has, I know there's no such thing as overnight success, but yeah, you're extremely successful. You're doing extremely well. I was talking to Carlos Reyes about you on the phone last week, and Carlos was just like, he just kept talking. He kept going. I said, Carlos, I didn't call you to talk about Steve. I called you to talk about what you and I are doing together. But Carlos said to tell you how. But talk to our audience real quick, Steve, about a principle. What is the one thing that's caused you to separate from others in that same industry?
So I would say recently the biggest thing is being a better listener. And, that sounds totally absurd. I liked what Brandon said in the beginning about model, mimic, and master. But really, everything comes down to just a handful of fundamental things, right? And so for us, it is listening. And this is actually what we do a lot of training on. So I was going to go over a little bit of the stuff that we do. But, one of the things that we heard growing up, mom said this, might have had a teacher say this, but it's not what you say, but how you said it. You guys all remember that? Nod your head if you guys agree. So you're all wrong. Like it's not true at all, right? So it's not what you say. It's not even how you said it. It's how the recipient receives it. Okay. It's how they process it, because they went through their eyes and their ears and went into their brain. And especially for the guys on this call, how can you tell when you said something wrong to your wife? But right? The eyebrows furrow, the arms crossed, they lean back, and it's just bad. And so what happens is, if you look at communication, according to the experts, our brain processes about 40 megabits per second, which is like a 10-year-old computer. It's not a computer today, but, maybe 10 years ago. But our ability to speak and talk is really about the same as it was when we first invented fire, right? We have not had a hardware upgrade. And so the biggest problem is in communication is like, if I say, hey, Ken, can you come on over? I'm going to be building my own pool. We're going to have a do-it-yourself service of the pool. And you would probably go rent a Bobcat and some trucks and whatever. But if I just give you a spoon, you couldn't do it. And that's what language is, right? Our ability to communicate. We're trying to communicate with a spoon or use a spoon to build a pool, right? And so one of the things that we look at as far as communicating, one of the first things is there's no assuming allowed. And assuming is something that we do naturally, right? Like we want to believe we already know what the other person's thinking, what their what their thoughts are, with what their belief systems are, and the truth of the matter is, we really don't know what's going through people's minds. We think we do. We think, especially we think that they would think the way we do, which is definitely not true, right? And so one of the things we'll do is we'll assume that they'll make a decision the way that you would make it. So for me, example, I'm a former engineer. We didn't talk about that. So the way I like to be sold is give me the facts, bottom line it, and I'll make my decision without your help. Okay. So when I first started selling, I would just give people the facts and the figure. It's like, okay, what do you want to do? And that didn't work. And so what you have to do is really put yourself in the other person's shoes. So, what a line I heard a long time ago is, if you want to understand what Johnny buys, you see the world through Johnny's eyes. Okay. You really need to put yourself in their world. And so one of the ways we do it is we don't talk so damn much. All right. Whoever's doing the most talking is buying. So if I'm talking more than I'm asking, then I'm buying the fact that you don't need me. But if you're talking more because I'm asking good questions, you're buying my service, you're buying me, right? Other thing, so one question I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard is, how long have you been in the business? And old me would have been like, well, I got licensed 2007. I did some short sales. I got some bank listings, and then I started my brokerage, and then this and that and whatever, right? Anyone who asks me that question, if I give them the answer, their eyes glaze over, they don't care, and I've just destroyed all possible rapport, okay? So I say, Kent, I get that question from time to time. You must be asking me that question for a reason. And I say, well, I just want to make sure that you know what you're doing. I say, okay, so you just want to be comfortable knowing that the person you're working with is competent. I say, yes, okay. So what would you need to see or hear to feel comfortable knowing that I'm your guy? They say, well, if I can get this, this, and this. I say, okay, so if I can give you this, then you would feel comfortable working with someone like myself. Totally different question. How long have you been in the business is really, how do I know I can trust you, right? And so that's one of the biggest things, communications. We want to answer questions, we want to talk, and that's where one of the biggest downfalls is in sales. And so how do we do this? One of the things we do is we play a lot of lost puppy. And this is kind of a weird idea, right? But I would guess that we were to survey everyone on this call and said, hey, if you stepped out tomorrow morning, right, and you opened the door and there was a lost puppy just in the street, in your front yard, 90% of people, their heart would melt. They'd run out to the grass and pick up the puppy and try to rescue it, okay? That's how most people are. And in truth is, that's how humans are in general. And so if you're helpless and you need help, people want to rescue you, right? Everyone's got a little bit of a savior complex and they feel good about themselves. And anyone here that's been in a restaurant industry, if you just think about the first day you were a server, if your first day was anything like mine, you get crazy good tips. Why? You were grossly incompetent. You had no idea what you were doing. And in their mind, you're so bad that you're not going to get tipped by anybody. I better help this kid. And so I got some great tips on my first day, better than the rest of my career, right? And so what we do is we just struggle on purpose. So we talked about, I have a brokerage, I got 120 agents. And unfortunately, part of having a brokerage is you get agents that get judgments issued against them. And agents are 1099, they're not employees. So we get garnishment wages issued about once a year, maybe every other year. And when I get those, I just throw them in the trash because there's nothing I can do with it. You can't garnish a 1099 employee. You can garnish a W-2, but you can't garnish a 1099. And so about last year, I got this phone call from an attorney and she said, we served you some garnishment paperwork and we have not heard back from you. I said, I apologize. I talked to my attorney and he said, I don't need to respond to these. She's like, no, you actually have to return. You have to respond to these. And I said, you told me as a 1099 employee, you guys can't garnish the wages. So help me out here. Like, what is the problem here? And she said, I'm not your attorney. You're not paying me. I'm not helping you here. I said, okay, but how do I tell my attorney what we're doing wrong if I have no idea? If you could just send me an email, I'll forward it to him and we'll rectify it. And then she was still abusive, to which I said, I didn't get a chance to go to law school. I'm just a real estate agent. And now she feels bad for me. She's like, fine, I'll email it to you. And she emailed it to me and I forwarded it to my attorney. But what did I do here? I acted helpless. And when I call customer service, my first two statements is always, I don't know if you can help me. I don't know if I'm calling the right place. And they want to help, right? And who doesn't want to feel like a hero? And so one of the other parts as well as communicating is you never answer an unasked question. This takes a ton of training, okay? But people want to tell you something and you want to respond, you want to defend your position. So I'll give you some examples here. They're saying, hey, you're with, Grant Cardone, and someone says, well, I'm talking to Tony Robbins. You might say, well, I don't know about Tony Robbins, but let me tell you about Grant Cardone, right? But instead of saying, oh, that's, you're talking to Tony Robbins, you might say, okay, and you're telling me that because, and then you'll find out what their motivation is, okay? Or they might tell you, we already have a proposal. And then you could say, oh, who's it with? What's the price? What's the offer? And then another response could be, oh, that's great. When you guys, this is done then. I don't even need to be here. You already solved your problem. And say, no, I haven't solved my problem, right? Let's keep this going. But the old me would have been like, who is it? I can beat it, Or another one might be, your price is too high. And like old me would have been like, well, where do I need to be? And I'll price drop 15, 20% without hesitation, But now it's like your price is too high. You would say, oh, okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. What were you hoping to offer the price is going to be? Or you might just sit quiet because they might be talking themselves into working with you. So I want you guys to think about a time where you've had a friend tell you something and you knew a but was coming. You just knew the word but was coming, right? So next time you have that, you hear that, you can sense it, you want to reverse it. This is what we call reversing. You want to insert the word and. So instead of saying but, you say and they'll continue their thought, right? So now you could say and, or you can insert because, they'll continue their thought. Or if they say something, I'm also talking to Tony Robbins, which means, and they'll tell you what they're trying to tell you. They will give you more information, more ammo for you to use later on, right? So you got to, like I've said, we call it reversing. So another one is I'm confused. Like we already have a proposal. I'm confused. Then why did you ask me to come? Or I don't understand. And they'll say, well, we want to shop you. It's like, you already have somebody. You should just go with the other guy. Right. So these are things that we'll use and they'll be like, no, we want to work with you. And now they're selling them. They're trying to sell them to you versus you trying to sell yourself to them. Another thing we'll do is, you must be telling me that for a reason. Again, we're talking to Tony Robbins and you're telling me that for a reason. Like, well, and they'll tell you whatever was on their mind, whatever you didn't know. And then Chris Voss is called like the black swan. There's something back there that you can pull out, right? Or if there's a situation where like you feel like you've lost, you feel like you had a terrible meeting, you can just say that. I kind of get the feeling this was not a good meeting, that you've already made your mind up and you're going with the other guy. And then they'll tell you whether that's true or not. Versus like, oh, did I get it? You're just thinking about, you're wondering. If you have a feeling, you just say it and they'll correct you. And this just expedites the communication process. Another thing is, for you guys that are making bids, right? We're all entrepreneurs. You might hear things like, your proposal looks pretty good. I think there's a good chance we'll go with you. I like what you're telling me. And to which all these, you can always respond with and, or because they're not telling you anything that's useful. There's nothing that you can work with, right? It's just this wishy-washy, ambiguous, you have no idea where you stand. And that's the worst. This is kind of like, back in high school when you were dating. You'd rather a girl tell you, no, I have no interest in you, than like, call me next week. Or like, maybe, right? Maybes are the worst. And maybe I'm just still traumatized from high school. But this is also true in entrepreneurship. You've got a bid, you've made an offer, whatever, and they'll tell you maybe. Now you're playing this follow-up game and your prospects are going dark. You're wasting a lot of time. You'd rather get a no today than maybe, right? And so anytime someone says that your proposal looks pretty good, that's awesome. And you're telling me that right now because, and they'll tell you what it means and you get some clarity. The other thing is when we're communicating, we always like to ask what and how questions. Chris Voss calls these calibrated questions. Okay. So we naturally want to ask verb-led questions. Who's the decision maker? When are you looking to make a decision by? And when you ask these questions, you get a lot of opportunities to lose all momentum in the conversation. Like you ask a yes, no question and they say no, boom, it's over, right? So we always want to ask is what and how questions. I mean, you guys have heard in sales training, open-ended questions. How do we do it? What and how questions. And so an example would be, I don't know if we can give you that price. You want your budget's here, our price is here. If we can give you what you're looking for, what happens next? And they'll tell you it's gonna be yes or no, and I get clarity. But if they say, well, then I got to shop up by my boss, like, okay, well, let's just go to your boss together. But if they tell you, well, I still got to talk to the competitor, it's like, well, then I don't know. I'm not giving you that price. I'm not going to allow you to shop me. And so one of the questions we like to ask a lot, if you guys want to write this one down, is how will you know you're working with the right person? And whatever they tell you, they've told you everything that you need to know just about on how to sell them, right? If you have the solution for what they're asking for, you've got it. You've got the deal. And so we go through all this and we're talking about how to communicate, how to pull more information out. So how do we get more information out of them, right? So all the tools I've given you so far is how to help them finish a thought, complete a thought, pull out more information out of them. The other thing you need to do is you really need to ask really well-calibrated questions, like you're an attorney or you're a doctor. So what does it sound like? Someone says, yeah, we're thinking about, selling the space, for the salon thing, whatever, right? Okay, tell me more about that. And how long have you been thinking about selling this? What have you done to try to sell this place? Did that work? What would you need in your pocket in order for it to justify selling this commercial space? How does that feel? Another thing is, if this is a complicated situation like we deal with in foreclosures, does anybody else know about this? What would happen if we can't help you? Right? And so you ask all of these questions, and it's not like you ask a question, one question, then boom, it's over. You ask this question, they're gonna give you some answers, and then we clarify it, right? We extend it with because, and, which means. And as we complete this complete thought, then we go to the next question and we complete that whole thought. And so by the end, okay, they've spoken a lot, right? And the great thing we know is this is how to win friends and influence people. Whoever talks the most, right? We talked about in the beginning, they feel understood. They feel like you listened. They felt like you were interested versus trying to be interesting. And if you can capture that, then there's a really good chance that you can do business together. Again, one of the things I'm going to put this out there is if you can understand, if you want to understand what Johnny buys, see the world through Johnny's eyes. You've got to put yourself in their position, see the world through their eyes. If you can do that, there's a much better chance you guys doing business together.
Steve, how long did it take you to really develop and hone that skill? Because I'm
About
listening to
2
you,
years.
because I'm like crazy passionate. I'm like, oh, let me tell you what I got going on, and I'm like, I'm listening to you and I'm like, ooh, I suck at that.
So
I'm not
about
good
2
at
years.
that, man.
So there was this cold calling contest about a couple of months ago.
I saw it. Carlos was there. He was in that too, right?
Was that?
Carlos Reyes was in that too?
Yeah, Carlos. Yeah, he was a judge.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. And so what they found was like, oh, Steve's the reluctant buyer, or Steve is the the master of uncomfortable silence. Because I'll ask you, like, you'll tell me, you'll make a statement, and I'll just like, and now the ball's back in your court. You have to finish that silence. Most people, generally speaking, are uncomfortable with silence. And I'm going to leverage that as a tool to fill the void. So you're going to tell me everything I need to know throughout this conversation. And look, the way I've explained it before is I'm like a sketch artist. We're going to figure out what you need. I'm going to draw it out. Really, if I'm a great sketch artist and I can draw exactly what you need as a proposal, and I can tell you now, I can do that or I can't. But if I can draw exactly what you want, your price, your budget, your time frame, your deliverables. If I can find out what all those are, and I can say I can do those things, we're doing business together. Because who else is doing that? Who of your competition is doing that?
That's how do you train your team?
How do I train my team?
How do you train your team on that? Do you role play? Was it like a card on you kind of thing? What does that look
role
like?
Play? So I have my own sales training program that I'm training people around the country. So our guys are on those calls. And then my business partner, Max, is also role playing with our team twice a week. So I'm delivering the fundamentals, the foundations every week. And then Max is dealing with like the today problems. Like, here's what they said. How do I get around that? So I'll give you a perfect example. One of the classic closes, and this is terrible, it's a habit that one of our guys developed. And I was actually kind of disappointed when he told me this. Like, I can't believe after everything I've taught you that you're still doing this. So here's an example is, you tell me like, Steve, that price isn't going to work for me. I need to be at, $5,000, right? And I'm at like 8,000. You're like, it's gotta be 5,000. And his response was like, if I can give you 5,000, will you sign today? Now we took this great conversation and become a car salesperson instantly. So no, what we say is, hey, Ken, I don't know if we can do 5,000. I'm gonna have to run it by my boss, but let's pretend I get him down to 5,000. What would happen next? And then you're gonna tell me that you'll sign. And if you tell me you'll sign, I will go fight with my boss to make it happen. But if you tell me you're gonna continue shopping, why am I gonna go waste my time fighting with my boss for this?
Right, I love
it. So, but those are the kind of things that we're training on every week.
I love it. No assuming allowed. Whoever is talking is doing the buying.
Right. This is like that. This is what was it? Ben Affleck, right, in Boiler Room, right? Either they're buying, they need you, or you're buying that they don't need you.
That's right. That's exactly right. Hey, Steve, thanks, man. A ton. I took a ton of notes, and I'm literally listening to you, and I'm going, dang, I don't do any of that good. I just don't do that good. I don't do that good. I'm the guy that's like, man, let me tell you about what I got going on. I'm so passionate about it. Boom, and then let me sell this to you. But I love it, dude. I love the science. I love your you're just methodical.
And I'm going to be I'm talking to a publisher about getting this stuff out there. So if anyone wants a copy of the book, just text sales book to 33777. I'll type it in here.
Yeah, type it in and then, it would be fantastic.
And then I'll get you guys a rough draft when it exists.
Awesome, dude. We'll type it in there. I've got a good buddy, Steve. Thank you for coming on. I've got a good friend of mine, Justin Stewart. Justin owns Synergy Construction in Seattle, doing tens of millions of dollars a year in business. Justin, man, hop on real quick. Tell everybody what you're doing and what you've got going on.
I appreciate it, Ken. How are you doing, man?
What's up, buddy?
Good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend.
And you mentioned earlier, how good was that Cardone Mastermind?
Yes, it was fantastic.
That was a great weekend. I appreciate the chance to be on here, and yeah, I can tell a little bit. So we have a 30-plus year commercial general contractor that was built on building affordable housing in the communities we serve. But in the last 5-6 years, that problem's gotten worse and worse. So set out to solve that problem. Created a business unit that only utilizes offsite construction methodologies, taking that from $0 to $20 million to $40 million. And it's going a lot higher than that next. And then about a year ago, started a development arm that has a sole laser focus on solving the affordable housing crisis. And I don't mean in a small way. I mean, actually solving the affordable housing crisis. And we have a roadmap to do that. And next step is just building a team of allies, getting the message out and getting everybody involved in ways they can help.
I love it, dude. Hey, talk real quick. We've got a couple minutes because I want to bring David on here in about 5 minutes. Justin, talk to me real quick about, you and I spent a lot of time together down at the Mastermind at Grants, and you've been unbelievably successful. And not just successful, but literally every year, dude, you're a visionary. You see things. You bought a family-owned business that your parents started with siblings involved in as well. So there was a lot of, you and I in our one-on-one conversations at dinner and at lunch talked a lot through that. But you're a visionary. That's dude. When I talk to you, I'm like, I don't dream big enough. I don't think big enough. Talk to me about like that ability to be able to dream and see. And you've taken some huge risks as well to buy out the rest of the family and run this company. Talk to me about that journey.
Well, that was, the theme of this talk. You guys asked about kind of our one core principle that if we had to talk about it, and that is that what you're doing has to be bigger than you. But that's easy to say, but then it has to be in alignment with what you want for your own life. So if those two things are in alignment, if you have a mission, a dream that is so big, but it's in alignment with what you want for your life, all of the risks, what you were talking about, passion, the taking risks, that just comes natural. That's just waking up. That's waking up and going, let's do it. I mean, along the way, it was, there were a lot of risks there, Ken. There was not just on the personal side, not just on the financial side, not just on the time side. There were a lot of risks. And if it was not for something, if it was just to make sure that we were doing financially well, I wouldn't have done any of them.
But
never.
So that risk was really birthed out of the huge vision. You saw what this company could look like. And now you're seeing it actually come into fruition. That was one of the things that you and I ate lunch that day. You were just sharing with me kind of the growth and what you had seen in that. Talk to me about how, because of how large the vision was and the dream was, you were willing, not only you were willing, but your wife had to say, hey, I'm good with this. Let's roll.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would help to tell a short story. So here we have this company. It's successful. It's going great. I'm one of the shareholders. We have outside shareholders, very mature company. And just picture this. I'm heading into the office. We have a project we're about to start. It's affordable housing up in Seattle. Great client. They're doing incredible work. They're a nonprofit up there. This particular project was for homeless veterans. And we're getting ready to start this project, doing our part. And I'm feeling great. And I get the call. I look down. It's the developer. And I'm expecting this to be the kickoff call. And instead, I hear these three things. Costs are too expensive. I don't know where we're going to get the money. And the project's on hold. Immediately, that goes to, kind of personal fear. We're running a company with 75 employees. They all need paychecks. We have a lot of families' well-beings on our shoulders. But this wasn't the first time we were getting this call. If I was just going to solve our problem, I would just sell more projects, knowing that I'm sorry we're going to get these calls, but I'm just going to sell more projects. But our core mission, even at that time, was to build affordable housing. And that was the sector that was getting crushed because they submit their funding applications early. So I set out to solve that problem. And it was only because that problem was so big that I could have the vision. Because otherwise, what that vision required was 3 years of dedicated research, a couple $1 million of personal funds, not company funds, flying all over the country, having conversations, uncomfortable introductions, having conversations with everybody that would talk to me, to then realize what was possible. And once we could realize what was possible, then the rest of it happened from there. But it was having a dream so big that, our man Uncle G likes to say, you have a dream so big that your problems pale in comparison. Well,
exactly right.
It can't just be your dream. It's got to be for somebody else too, but it's got to align with yours. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Justin, Stacy, will you put Justin's contact info? Justin, dude, you've been an inspiration to me the time we've got to spend together over the past month or two, and listening to your story, the way you're dreaming, the desire that you have on the affordable housing industry, really, which is a crisis in the things that you're doing. Dude, super honored for you to take some time with us tonight. Man, grateful for your friendship, my friend.
Well, I very much appreciate it, man. I love what you're doing. So anytime, happy to jump on.
Thank you, my friend. Hey, guys, we're going to wrap up tonight with my friend David Meltzer. He doesn't even need an introduction. You guys have seen him before on my podcast. David's goal and life mission right now is to make 1 billion people happy. David, how you doing, my friend?
I'm awesome, man. It's over 1 billion people. And, to that matter, you cannot out-ask the universe. Just remember, you cannot out-ask the universe.
And hey, listen, David, real quick, tell everybody a little bit about who you are, a little bit of background, and then share about that one principle for you that's made business in your personal life so successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, grew up poor, made a ton of money in technology, eclectic career, ended up being the CEO of the world's first smartphone in my early 30s, became CEO of Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment, the most notable sports agency in the world. The last 12 years, Warren Moon, the Hall of Fame quarterback, and I have had a media and marketing company in sports called Sports One Marketing. Last 3.5 years, I've been blessed on this mission of leveraging free trainings I've been doing for 20 years into a mission of empowering over 1 billion people to be happy. So I do free trainings for everyone every Friday and have built my own brand on that one abundant philosophy that happiness cures all. It's the greatest disease ever created. It's spread simply by witnessing it. It will strengthen you emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially. It'll actually protect you against any other disease because it strengthens your immune system as well. So I'm a pure happiness and gratitude person. And I'm going to talk about one principle for everyone.
Hey, before you get started, David, I had Josh York on my podcast today, and Josh told me to tell you hello, by the way.
Oh my God, he is a monster. And I
That's
talk
my
about
guy.
asking, man. The guy sends 18-wheel tires to your office to get your attention, and has gotten Phil Knight and Gary Vee, myself, Ed Milet. He is an incredible asker, and nobody has more energy than Josh, and it's incredible.
Yeah, I get around very few people who have as much energy as I do. And when I first met Josh a couple months ago, I'm like, this is my guy right here.
That's the way I felt. I'm like, nobody can exhaust me. Nobody can out energy Dave Meltzer. And then I met Josh York. I'm like, oh, geez, man. Oh my God. He wakes up 3:45. I wake up at 4 a.m. Like the guy, everything about him, he slept in a car to build his business. I love him. He's all grit. We need more Joshes in the world.
Yes, we do.
Telephone.
Yes, we do.
Core principles. This is a hard one for me because I live by so many principles and so many mechanisms. So I'm going to talk about the one lesson and principle that I would have told myself when I was 22, 32, 42, and I tell myself every day at 52. And it starts off with what Justin was talking about, asking, right? You cannot out-ask the universe. If I can inspire anyone with a core principle to be successful, it's a series of questions, and there's 2 components to asking. The first is you got to be solidified on asking how you can provide value or service to others. You have to be and live your life of service, shift the paradigm. It's a bullshit phrase, the more I give, the more I get. No, the more you receive, the more you can give. And you can only receive if you're asking and creating a void for the universe to fulfill with value and purpose and passion and profitability. You got to know your value to be confident, to be able to carry that, unbelievable energy of, hey, look, I'm of service and value. I'm not looking or expecting or negotiating anything in return. I'm simply asking you, how can I be of service or value? And you can learn a technique with open-ended and closed-ended questions to figure out how you can provide service. I really get frustrated with people like, Mr. Meltzer, I want you to coach me. I can't afford it. Well, you don't know what value you have yet. You haven't asked me what I need. You're a dog trainer. I got an unbelievable miniature dachshund that keeps peeing on my carpet. That's worth way more than cash if you can take my dog and train it. There's all kinds of things that we can do. But more importantly than asking a variety of questions to see how you can be of service or value, a series of questions of how you can create that void for the universe to fill. It's that side of Justin was talking about. You got to ask people, do you know anyone that can help me? I know this sounds, conflictual to what I do, but you can't give what you don't have, whether it's gratitude, whether it's forgiveness. The whole idea of accountability is based on the fact that you can only give what you receive. So I want everyone in the few minutes that I have here tonight to really shift the paradigm in their life. No more are you giving to get. No more are you trading your life away. No more are you living in a world of not enough or just enough. I want you to enter a world of more than enough, an abundant world of enough of everything for everyone. And when you live in that world, I'll know it because you'll be out there like me in person, on the phone, email. I check my sent box every night to see how many times I'm asking people, do you know anyone that can help me? Do you know anyone that can help me? And then, of course, media-wise, remember what world we live in today. There's old geezers like Ken and I, no offense, Ken, but I know grass doesn't grow on a busy street, and that street's been worn. So it is there, man. That there's a lot of knowledge in dummy tax, but you got to remember, ask. You know, out of anything, you have to know how to ask for help. And when we were young, Ken and I, when you asked someone for help, they only knew a few people. It was a golf game, a card game, a church group, a men's group, some, Girl Scout squad, the coaching. But nowadays, on average, think about this. Most people know on average 1,000 people. So if you're asking every day in person, on the phone, via email and media, radio, print, TV, social media, whatever it is, you will build hundreds of thousands of people in your network. And guess what? When you ask somebody for help, they're making an investment in you. You're allowing them to feel good about themselves. There's such this hindrance of asking for help. But I always tell people, if I had my 10-year-old son call you, any one of you right now, and say, my dad told me you were an expert at blank, would you please help me? How many of you would feel great about it? How many of you feel good about yourself? Like, you're giving people this opportunity to feel good about their superpower, right? And you're able to give your superpower to somebody else. So my core principle for the day is to ask both not only how you can be of service or value, but a series of questions every day, in person, on the phone, email, and media. Do you know anyone that can help me? There's no gatekeepers out there, by the way. Nobody to overcome, outwit, oversell, back-end sell, manipulate, lie to, or cheat. There's only sponsors in your life. Everyone out there is someone that knows somebody that can help you, or they can help you themselves and know somebody that can help you. They're a power sponsor. And I am here to tell you, come to my trainings every Friday. I'm a power sponsor of every one of yours. You can have my email address, david@dmeltzer.com. You can join my text community, 949-298-2905. Everything I do is free. So join me. I'll send you my books, my exercises, my guides. Not a problem. Ken, man, I appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes with everybody. I look forward to doing this again.
David, thank you so much. I know you're on vacation with your family, my friend. And I just, man, I get around guys like you and Greg Reed and Josh York. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, man, there's so much more I need to do. There's so much more.
You got a quick question for me. I got a little bit of time. I told my wife.
I tell you what I would, Dave. Who's the last person? Give me a for instance over the past month or so where you've reached out and said, hey, do you know somebody that can help me? And what's kind of transpired out of that?
So it's so interesting. I met a guy named Dave McCourt, who happens to be a billionaire. His brother's Frank McCourt, sold the Dodgers. Dave's Ireland, UK, New York, LA. And I literally asked him for help as far as entrepreneurial advice. He wrote a book called Rethink. And so when COVID hit, I had read his book, and he talked about all of the critical institutions in the United States. This is before COVID. He wrote the book. We need to rethink our financial institutions, our educational institutions, our political, our judicial, all the different institutions. And so I just DM'd the man, right? And I said, hey, do you know anybody that can help me? Because I want to figure out my future. And I know that, you're the first one that presented this in a codified format, but everything's going to be rethought. And so when COVID hit, I said, hey man, can you help me figure out which parts are going to be accelerated? What's going to really transpire here? Because that's where the margins of millionaires are made, right? When there's a complete restructuring, there's a margins of millionaires that were made in the Depression. 2008, I saw it happen. I took advantage of it in my own life, even though I lost over $100 million. I was prepared at that time to take advantage of that restructuring. So I asked him for help. And not only has he helped me with certain areas where I am set up for decades to come, because he's telling me the acceleration of what's being rethunk, especially in the educational system where, I have a very strong brand, and the opportunities have reached all the way to being asked to be an advisor, an independent advisor, not political, not raising money, but an independent advisor to Biden about small businesses in America to set policy. So talk about asking for help and be able to impact my own mission by able to create, certain common sense things to me about building small business in America, empowering the freelancer, the entrepreneur, all the things that I grew up with, I stand by, all because I asked a very powerful person for help. And I did. I complimented on his book. I empowered him, but I asked if he'd make an investment in me by teaching me where those margins of millionaires are made. Now I've made a ton of money. I've had an incredible amount of impact, and he's become a really good friend. So we're having fun together as well. So that's just one of many. I've asked Steve Wynn when I first met him, same way to ask when I was young, to ask for help, to help me with my my own relationship with money. There's all kinds of people. And you know what? The worst thing they ever have said to me is, no, I can't do that right now. And I can't tell you how way more people say yes than have said no to me. That's all I got to say.
I love it. Nate May, Nate's my business development guy. I think Steve Train just showed you your book up right there. Nate, go ahead and ask Dave a question.
No, it's thanks so much for David for joining us. But in your book, Game Time Decision Making, which I think is a stellar book, by the way. I've just freaking been a follower of yours for a long time. But right now in this season we live in, COVID-19, post a crazy world, crazy election coming up, like what's the game time decisions you're making right now as you kind of make changes or pivot to how your business will run and what you do in the future?
All right, I'm going to run these down real quick for everyone. Number one thing I'm doing now, which is critical, take inventory of your values every day. Every day, make it a habit. Personal values, experiential values, giving values, and receiving values. And don't be afraid of being a hypocrite. In a compressed time of uncertainty and accelerated change, you got to know where your values lie. And you can't be afraid of not knowing what you don't know and being a hypocrite and saying, shit, man, I was so wrong about this. It doesn't matter. 2, ask and attract, which we went over. 3, study your calendar every day right now. It's critical to pay attention to and give intention to the coincidences you want in your life. What you have planned, what you don't have planned, and your sleep. Do it now is my 4th thing, meaning I ask myself, with everything going on that's so crazy, can I do it now? And if I can do it now, I do it immediately. If not, it goes into my calendar for the next day to prioritize by what's most important. 100% of the things that you do now get done. The difference between the successful people and the non-successful people is successful people get stuff done. It's that simple. And then finally, most importantly, I'm on a journey as a ferocious Buddha. I practice ending fear. So I know that I'm on a journey. I'm not good at it. I've taken it from years to weeks to months to days, but I practice identifying when I'm in ego-based consciousness. I stop as best as I can, and I put myself on the right trajectory. I call it a practice of ending fear, getting out of ego-based consciousness. If you could do those 5 things, those are all inadvertently in-game time decision-making. They allow you to intuitively take the correct action or reaction to any measure, no matter how quickly things change or accelerate. And you can, like I said, find those margins of millionaires. Most importantly, have this incredible, gracious attitude, finding the light, the love, and the lessons, the superpower in everything. In other words, being happy and making other people happy.
David, that was fire, man. Thanks so much, brother.
All right, guys, I'm going to my family. I would have stayed all night. I'm at the Broadmoor with my family waiting downstairs, so I apologize. Thank you so much.
Hey, David, enjoy. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for being with us. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us tonight on our Growth Stack Drive Virtual Summit. As we mentioned earlier, there's a link right there, growthstackdrive.com/coaching. If you'll click on that link, it will take you over to sign up for our free coaching that starts next Wednesday night. We're going to do 2 bonus weeks as we film over the next week or 2 weeks to be able to get our Grow course, Stack course, and our Drive course completed. It's going to be absolute fire. It's going to be amazing. You guys, thank you for being with us. Tomorrow on our Growth Stack Drive weekday live, I have got, who is on with me? Oh, I got a little guy named Anthony Trucks on with me tomorrow. So if you know Anthony, he's a phenomenal guy. Thursday, I've got a little known guy named Brad Lee, who's going to be with me Thursday at noon Eastern time on our weekday live. And then Friday, I have got a good friend of mine named Edward Bailey. Edward runs one of the largest nonprofit faith-based drug and alcohol rehab places in Atlanta, Georgia. He's been named to 2 of the Atlanta Business Post and Atlanta Business Chronicles top 40 under 40 leaders. Edward's currently being mentored by Frank Blake, the former CEO from Home Depot, and Cheryl Batchelder, who took Popeyes, the CEO of Popeyes, who took it from one of the bottom restaurant chains to one of the tops. It's going to be phenomenal. You guys can click on that link. We'd love to have you guys join us. And then also, we'd love to have you hit our YouTube channel up, subscribe. Tonight's virtual summit, everything that we've done over the past several months is available for you guys for free. Tell a friend. Hey, listen, guys, let's go. Let's make it happen. Spend 10 minutes tonight working on your calendar for tomorrow. So when you wake up, and I say this all the time, if you need an alarm clock to wake up in the morning, your goals aren't big enough. I've already started on my calendar for tomorrow. Dude, 5:30, I'm going to be rolling in the morning. That's not as early as Steve Train gets up, but it's close. Steve, I appreciate you. Justin, thank you. All of you guys that are still here, all of our communicators, thank you for being here. For those of you guys that were a part of our Growth Stack Drive Virtual Summit, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you guys tomorrow on our weekday live. Y'all have a blessed one.